that I had heard that
I
correctly?
heard it, sis.
You had heard it too, right?
Hey,
I
what
had
they say in the
heard.
streets?
I had heard the
Look,
same
I,
thing.
I I apologize. I
Mm-mm.
apologize if you got it confused.
I
If
mean,
she got it confused,
because
we heard what we
Use
heard.
that one.
I
Use that.
always
We heard
told you,
what we
Dre,
heard.
that this is a safe place for
She
you.
said, "Heard what we heard."
We
And
heard
here
what we
you
heard.
came on here and you know, I said
Hold on,
this is
I
a
gotta take
safe
my
place
head
and you
down for this
tried to cut
conversation.
us.
Oh no! Don't put the hair down. I'm
I gotta
already
let
like I'm
the
seeing like
let the
Natalie
hair
Cyphers
down.
on Facebook. I think everybody who's like dark skinned and tall is like her. I
Right? They be sharing pictures. I could have sworn this was Nelly and passing real fast. I take it. They be cute.
Hold on, y'all. So we are officially live. We gonna give people just a couple minutes to hop on here. I don't want to waste no time
Let's get
tonight
it.
with the shenanigans because I really, really feel like this is about to go super deep. I
Let's have
think
some
that we
fun.
gonna need the whole entire time to discuss this, but we got some rules because I get real heated when I talk about this, and
Mm-hmm.
Russia gets real heated when he
I'm
talks
gonna be
about
good
this.
today. I'm
So
gonna be
that
good today.
The lies.
I'm gonna be good today because I'm sick of talking about Billy and and
It's more than Billy. It's
and
more
all
than
her
Billy.
mishaps.
It's
I'm
more
over
than
it.
Billy. More than Billy. And Dre even got heated too. Like Dre was so mad he didn't even want to type. He just was sending me like voice rants, like going off. He didn't even want to type it. He was just like, "Nah, I gotta record this." Cause I'm mad.
I want to make sure that it was a lot to type. I could talk and get it all out easier,
right.
and it was real close. And let me just say real quick, a good friend of mine, Sam Marshall, shout out to Samuel Marshall. He for the last few weeks invited us to come to his house to actually watch Sex Life. It was like an outside viewing and everything. It was food. It was nice. It was a really nice time and everything. And I watched it with a bunch of other people to get their
Mm-hmm.
perspectives. And I seen it. I saw it all, before that. But I watched it with them just to relive it and watch everything, get their experience and their thoughts and views. And the whole thing was very beneficial. So I'm thanking
I'm glad
Shantae
you're
for
coming with other people's perspectives as well. This is good.
So, do
uh,
you have a different perspective after watching it with a group of people versus watching it alone and then just discussing it with me?
A little bit because they did tap on some things that were interesting to me because I'm not married and I don't have a wild sex past history or present. So a lot of things that I was like listening to and learning was from listening to their experiences and their thoughts and views about it. And I just really enjoyed that perspective. I like hearing people talk. Honestly, I
Okay,
do.
question. So,
Hold on, I had to get my notebook.
she had to go get her notebook. So the people, okay, we're gonna get into that. But first and foremost, want to thank y'all for joining us. I want to see y'all comments in the chat. Like, please, please, if you are watching this live, I want to hear from you. I especially want to hear from married couples with children because I feel like there were some nuances in there that only if you have lived that life you will get, and how it
Hmm.
really does shift some things and from each perspective, right? And so if you have watched Sex Life on Netflix, I want to hear your perspectives in the chat. Just chime on in. We're gonna try to scroll them across the screen, but I've been looking forward to having this conversation. Although I've been having this conversation for about 2 months
You've
now,
been
I feel
having this
like
conversation, so
I've been having it so much with so many different people. And so I'm excited to have this conversation because as a married woman, I was triggered by this show.
Mm.
And so I'm going to be real honest. I was triggered by this show um, in a lot of ways, actually. I understood it from both perspectives. But I was very triggered by this show, but not as triggered as some people on this live. I shall not
Don't
shall
do all
remain
that.
nameless.
Don't do all
You
that.
I
know,
have no
Speak for
problem
yourself.
accepting it.
some
I
people
was I
on
was
this
upset.
live.
don't
Speak
do
for
all that.
yourself. Because you
I
was
ain't
I
gonna
you
was
was
say
upset. I
do
was
you
you
upset.
do you
I was
feel me,
upset.
Russia? I didn't say no names. Do you
okay,
feel
but you gonna speak for
guilty?
yourself though.
I didn't say nothing. I just said I ain't gonna say no names.
Uh-huh.
You started acting real
You
guilty.
did tell on
Well,
yourself though.
you keep on speaking for yourself.
I'm just saying. I didn't say no names. However, let's get to it. So I want to hear. Do y'all want to just talk about the show as an entirety, or do y'all want to try in an effort to go like episode for episode?
I think
Go ahead.
I don't know because see, I dead ass got notes. So the way my notes is set up.
Nobody wrote down no notes episode per.
I thought about it. I thought about coming with notes.
Y'all
I was
know
so
I
busy
write
today.
notes for everything. Okay.
I thought about it.
I don't show up
I was
without
on
a
honor
pen and
Natalie
paper.
by having a notebook.
I don't show up without a pen and paper. So the way I took my notes is kind of as it was happening. I was writing things down, so it's kind of episode by episode, but also general. So
do you men remember episode by episode?
Yes, I do.
Matters too.
To a degree.
Somebody
To a degree. We can talk about topics and everything to a degree. Yeah.
And have
I'm good.
the episode sitting there.
So now, I don't even know if I could load into my Netflix because I've rewatched this series now about 3 times. And so because I've rewatched it so much, in all honesty, like a lot of the stuff together, so it's kind of difficult for me to know if it happened in this episode or that episode. And that's really just also how I tend to process series. I kind of process the series in entirety like it's just one continuous story. So I can try to do it episode, but if I go a little bit ahead of the game, I apologize. Everybody that's chiming in should have watched all of the season by now anyway. So
let's just talk about it in its entirety.
Yeah, in general.
Talk about it. So here's a disclaimer. If you have not seen the entire first season, these are going to be some spoilers. So if you feel some particular way about spoilers, I would suggest that you hop off, even though I want you to stay because I kind of want to get your insight on it. But if you feel some sort of way about spoilers, this may not be the show for you because we're going to talk about it all. So let's just get started. First, perspectives on Billy.
I was upset with Billy at the end.
Wait,
you got that yet?
Hold on. I know
okay. I'm sorry.
But can we build up a little?
Okay. So no, I understood what Billy was coming from. Billy, first of all, let me just say the writing of this show was good. The way they paced everything, the way they kind of exposed everything down the line to be episodic. It was very good writing, very descriptive. I called it a toss-up between Red Shoe Diaries and Grey's Anatomy. It was just that interesting as far as the process that they did everything. She was definitely someone that could be identifiable. Like I know people that said they can identify with her, and I get it. So there wasn't a problem, I really felt that that I understood where she was coming from. I was just frustrated about the communication piece because that was a really big piece for her. Was it
a really big piece
I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to clarify.
Was it a really big piece for him? Because
same question.
I have a complete different perspective. I felt like
of course you do. Of course you do.
Well, let me break it down for you. Why I feel like she did communicate.
Wait a minute. Can you let the man finish?
First of all, we wasn't talking to you yet.
Like,
okay, I was bouncing off something he said because he brought up communication, and I went in and he placed the communication on her, which has been a trend. Also, with someone that's on this chat that shall remain nameless, where all the blame from the male perspective seems to always go on Billy, but I really find that interesting because she was communicating.
No, she did not.
No, she was not. No, she was not. It's a difference. It's a difference. I can tell you why.
How didn't she communicate?
Yes,
because she even said
anything. She literally didn't say anything.
Okay.
She said it herself.
Hold on, at what stage are we talking about?
We talking about at the beginning because y'all want to start at the beginning.
Okay, right. So at the beginning, I just want clarity so everybody understand. We're saying that at the beginning, she didn't say anything and she wasn't really communicative of what was going on. Yes, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, how she
Okay.
was feeling. She was not being
Okay.
communicative at the beginning. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, here's where
And
I got a
watched
perfect point.
episode.
Perfect
no,
point.
here's why I feel like that's problematic. Okay.
Troy said back.
The first episode, the very first episode, what happens in like almost the immediate part of the scene? What happens?
Which scene?
The beginnings, okay, the scene where
so she decides that she wants to have sex with her husband, right?
Very much so.
Goes in the room to initiate, first and foremost, to initiate sex with her husband. Okay? And what is he doing?
let's back it up. Let's back it up further.
You trying to set it up?
I always gave over that.
No, I'm not. Because I knew he was gonna go there. I knew he was gonna go there because that's an argument that you're not going in with a man.
I'm not that passionate about it. Listen, I'm a moderate so that it can be understood for the audience. Okay? I mean, I got feelings and I got notes, but y'all passionate about it. Okay.
Let me just back up. Let me back up to lead into what she was saying. I'm gonna back up to lead into what she was saying. The first incident, the very first clue, where she should have said something to open up or would have had like an attitude or something, was when he came home and he gave the kids all the love and just kind of glossed by her as if she was an afterthought.
So
let me finish. Let me finish.
Because that's really important. No, that's really important because I feel like everybody always expects for communication to be verbal, but sometimes communication is non-verbal. That was a non-verbal communication where she kept trying to go towards her husband, and he kind of was just so in his own mind, his own world about the kids, so fixated on one thing. He didn't even notice that his wife was like, "Oh, he's talking about me," and he was not there.
No. When did
she even said, "I'm not dressed because I was dealing with something." He was like, "Oh, that's okay, whatever." Yeah. He never complimented her like somebody. I'm gonna steal this from one of my friends who brought this to my attention, but and it can lead up into it. But he never really complimented her on her beauty or what she did for other than being a good mother.
Communication.
So right, and so, but when he came home and did that, she should have she could have addressed it like, "Hey, I'm here too," you know what I'm saying? Even in a roundabout, sarcastic way to, "Hey, you gonna acknowledge me?" So leading up to what you said about the football thing, when he was in the house in the room, relaxing, watching football like men do, and she tried to do her best to initiate it. She got to read the room. Men ain't going to. Some men.
He was busy already.
You might not like the answer, but I'm being real. I'm being real.
Like her diary. That's mad.
I'm being real. Some men. I'm watching.
I hear you.
He's in his mode. He's in his phase. He's in his zone. And you come in, trying. I get it. Now, I get it. This in real life, it might not happen that way, but what he was doing, looking around and doing all that extra little stuff, I can understand that, because a lot of times when I'm on the phone with you and you talking, I'm like, yeah, my distraction is elsewhere. Sometimes depending on the situation. So it is I don't want to say necessarily a man thing, but I can relate to that understanding of I'm trying to watch this.
But during sex,
But hold on. Here's the thing.
He was watching football first.
That is the problem right there.
Problem.
Oh, I'm not saying not a problem. Right. Let me just say it's not a problem. Let me just say.
Because I just let you get that out. That's the problem right there, and this is why I get very when I hear it's all on her, because why should we have to communicate certain things to you just because you are preoccupied with football? He hadn't been having sex with his wife, which she said. She said they had not been having sex. They had not been intimate.
Over a year.
Okay.
That's not what she said.
Yes, that is what she said.
Literally like 18 months, he has not gone down on me in 18 months. She didn't say they hadn't had sex.
Gone down.
He hadn't gone down on her in 18 months.
She also said that when they are having sex, it's passionless. She said
She
that.
did not say that. I just watched the first episode. She did not say that.
Sis, what
She
you
did
got in
not
your
say
notes?
that.
Let me refer to the notes.
Those words never came out of her mouth.
It didn't have to come out. See,
She didn't narrate them either.
Okay. So
y'all
let me break this
very
down for the
literal
viewers.
words. And
Hold on, let me break this
we're
down.
talking about her read the room. Why is he not reading the room? Why did he not read the room when he came in and saw his wife trying to embrace him and wanting attention and fishing for compliments, and he didn't give her that? So
I
why
got
did
an
you
answer.
need to read
I got
the
an
room?
answer.
Go ahead with
got
the
an
answer,
answer.
Dre.
No, here go an answer as an excuse. It's
She asked the question and then like,
Wait, Dre, what's your answer?
Go ahead.
Whether or not it's an excuse, it's still an answer by
It's an
definition.
Dre.
Well, whether or not it's an excuse that she came in and wanted to have sex with her husband in that moment, it doesn't matter.
To you.
See how selfish that sounds, though. So
That's
it's
not
like,
selfish. I
it's
understand.
very
I understand
selfish.
your point, but I'm understanding
It's
there's a
very
bigger
selfish.
picture
It's
to
very
this.
one-sided.
But leads
Wait,
but
Dre,
this
what's
leads
the
into the
bigger
bigger picture of him being disconnected and comfortable. Remember, towards the and we're gonna I'm not trying to skip ahead too far, but I'm saying that he was someone who was disconnected and comfortable because he's been doing this for a long time, and he was thinking, hey, I'm taking care of her. I'm doing all of this. I'm doing all of that. I love her. I love my kids. I'm not doing nothing wrong by her. He's not looking at it through her eyes of intimacy.
Absolutely
Intimacy.
not. That's facts.
You're right.
But okay, so
But
and
that's
for
the
that,
problem.
I understand that, but until it becomes tangible to somebody's thought process, we're oblivious to it.
So
We're oblivious to it.
Oblivious. That's facts as well.
here's the
Men
problem.
are oblivious to a lot of things because
That's
we
absolute
are
facts.
like blinders. If shit ain't on fire, if you ain't walking around,
But
looking like you coked out or something like that or depressed,
How
we
frustrating
good.
do you think
That's
that
also
must
facts.
be from a woman's perspective? Because when it comes to,
Also
let me
facts.
finish.
Yeah.
it wasn't frustrating enough for her to say anything about it. So
Excuse me. It doesn't matter because you all expect for us to be able to recognize and read the room. Like that was what you said. Where she should have read the room.
No, read the
But
room. But
why should she be responsible for reading the room and we not have an expectation for you to read the room? It's exhausting for a woman to constantly have to tell you you're not doing this, you're not doing that. I need you to do
And y'all don't want
more
that.
of that. And then
I
y'all say
understand.
nagging and you don't want that.
I understand.
So
I
at what
understand.
point? So to me, that was
What's the
her
balance?
communicating.
What's the
She
balance?
went in and said, hey, I want you. I need you. I need you
Initiated it.
right now.
Yeah, but just
Say
because you
all that.
communicate don't
right
always
now.
mean it's at the right time.
But
Just because you communicate don't always mean it's
So
the right
check
time.
this out.
his
All right.
communication style
Okay,
may
hold
not
on.
be
Wait,
that.
Rush.
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna let Rush go because you ain't go, and then I'm gonna go and say my piece on the subject. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead, girl.
Right, I'm gonna let Rush go first because he ain't said that.
She
Oh, now you quiet.
look. I get the whole he should have picked up on it or whatever, but the way he communicates may not be in that way. So if he's not picking up on those clues, why not try to find a different kind of way to address this to him? You can't. It's unfair to have expectations that you're not verbalizing or allowing that person to understand where you're coming from. You can't say you can't in your head have an expectation for me, but you haven't told me what that expectation is. How do you hold me to a standard you haven't?
But when she did, because eventually she did, whether it was by way of him reading her journal or not.
We talking about the first episode.
This is the first episode.
She did not tell him.
She
did not tell him in the first episode.
He read her journal. Did he not? In the first
She
episode.
didn't tell him.
No, that was telling him because at the time.
No, she didn't anticipate on him reading that. That was like some backhanded stuff. Okay.
So what? That was
he happened to come across it.
That
but
was
she
her,
did not. She
that
did not
was
tell
her
him.
venting to herself, and it is nothing wrong with her venting to herself. And
I agree. I agree.
So she did not feel like she knew how to communicate that with him. And then also, if we talking about reading the room, you know your mate. You know what kind of things. You know your mate, and you kind of know what kind of things your husband or wife will pick up on.
Not if you disconnected like he was. People
not if you went 18 months without getting head.
She didn't think that he would understand where she was coming from.
She didn't try.
She did. I said she didn't think. Did I say that she was right? I said she didn't think that he would understand where she was coming from, and she didn't exactly know how to express to him what it was that she needed. So she went ahead and wrote it in her journal, which she didn't really have at that point any intentions on it going beyond those pages. And what did he do? He went and he read it
repeatedly.
He read her stuff.
Continue.
Repeatedly.
And then when he read her stuff repeatedly, he talked to his friend, his co-worker, about reading it, being turned on, and pleasuring himself. He angry, almost said the F word on the counter in the kitchen. It wasn't
damn near right.
You know,
it was damn near right a couple times.
She liked it. She liked it.
She did want it at first until she recognized that it was very intimacy less. It didn't have any intimacy in it. It was really like anger. He angrily did her on the counter in the kitchen.
Hence her crying afterwards.
And she was like, okay, it was good and it's the best he had done for me in like forever, but that wasn't what I wanted. So I
okay, wait a minute. Time out.
She didn't say that.
So it was something when that happened, it was spontaneous, and it was a rush. It was a rush that she hasn't received from him damn near ever, if that. Right. So she was appreciative. So let's be honest, she was appreciative of it, but in the long run, that was like a one-trick pony, because what happened right after that? What happened right after that? He got mad again, or something happened, whatever the case may be, and he kind of cut it out again. Like he was like back to square one. I remember that because that was something that happened. He was like, it was so spontaneous that was the magic that they could be happening all the time, and it caught her off guard, and she appreciated it. But I don't think he knew that he had to keep it up. I think it was like that one time only thing. And then he kept reading. The more he kept reading, the more he kept learning. In the beginning, even though it was a slippery slope that he went down doing that shit, I wouldn't advise it. But he was using that because he really wanted to know how to please her, because he was understanding that she wasn't happy. And that was messing with him.
Hold on. Wait, I ain't saying nothing, y'all. I'm cutting in. All right, check this out.
Check this out. Cut me off.
Hush, boy. I didn't listen to you, Ram.
You cut me off.
Okay, you Rush, you didn't finish, is what you're saying. Rush, you said you didn't finish.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I want to kind of sum this up for me. Okay, so the first episode, when she initially, was basically played, when he came in and greeted the children and all of that other stuff, granted, he should have greeted her. But understandably, similar to what Dre was saying, he was in a pattern, he was in a routine, he was comfortable, and he was focused on his needs, his wants, and what he was tunnel vision. He wasn't paying attention to her. Now, that happens. Okay, sometimes we get tunnel vision. Okay, is it right? Nope, not right at all. Does it happen? Yes, it does. And in that moment, she could have said something, but what she did was initiate sex. Now, if she didn't try to initiate what she wanted, then I would have had even more of a problem with it. But she did try to initiate it. But what the football thing did for me, which I think the writers were trying to say it did for her, was reinforce the fact that she is not an afterthought, that she is not important, and their sex life is not important. Because he come in, he greet the kids first, he barely say anything to her. He moving on. He up in the room, he playing football. Granted, everybody need their me time. He work all day. He want to come out and have some me time. Absolutely understood. But we also cannot neglect the fact, bringing it back to the point that it's also really talking about motherhood and wifelyhood and womanhood. She's been here with these kids all damn day. She want to break too. Okay, and if she wants to break with her husband with some penis, okay, that's what she wants. All right.
It was just about her wanting the break, though, since she wanted acknowledgement. He had completely stopped acknowledging her.
He did not acknowledge her the whole time. Not a kiss, not a hey baby, not a slap on the behind. Okay, and so when it was like, okay, she wants this intercourse with her husband, and the fact that he was watching football, get it? People watching stuff or doing stuff. you know, they want to keep doing what they're doing, but it was a slap in the face because it's like, damn, you didn't greet me when you come in, you didn't give me kisses and hugs, you know what I'm saying, you didn't tell me you miss you, beautiful, no conversation, no nothing. You come up here, I try to have sex with me and say they won't, because I think if we 100% honest, if it was a man not getting pleasure when he wanted it, it would be a large problem in a marriage.
He would have told her too.
And if he initiated sex, and she continuously packed him,
he would have told her.
Because we also have to understand
how many men you know going 18 months without getting
one-off. This was not a one-off thing
in a relationship.
She told him to grab the vibrator, and he quickly and happily wouldn't grab that vibrator so he could finish watching TV.
And she didn't charge it.
No, she didn't.
No, she didn't charge it.
The battery went out.
And then the baby started crying. And so, like, imagine that build up of frustration. I'm being ignored by my husband after a long day with these kids, and I've been missing him, and I want him in more than one way. Then you was like, hey, I want you. You let them needs be known. Then you getting packed by a football game. So it's basically like you choosing everything over me. You choosing the kids over me. You choosing work over me. You choosing football over me. Why the fuck am I here? Okay.
Can I just say that?
I just need to piggyback off something that Natalie said. I don't really think that it was just about her missing him. I think she missed her. You get lost in motherhood. You get lost in being a wife. I think she missed feeling a particular way. Right. She missed being feeling a particular way. And it just so happens that being with her mate, her husband, helps her to feel that person again. Somebody made a comment that they feel like she was trying to pretend she was someone else. I don't think it was that she was trying to pretend she was someone else. I just think she didn't realize that it was going to be difficult to have all those things in one person. So I don't think she was pretending. She always wanted to be the mom. She always wanted to be monogamous and be just with one person. She wanted to be with one person that wasn't able to give her that monogamy, but she did just want him. She wanted to have the bomb sex. She wanted to have the romance and passion. She wanted to have all of those things, but she couldn't get it from her ex the way she couldn't get the stability from her ex. And she couldn't get the fun, the passion, the
intimacy
from her husband. And she was trying to, initiate it. And it was
so just you are refusing to believe that she tried.
Because Russia just want to feel how he wants to feel.
Listen, when he read that journal, for one, he read that journal and he, they had the
wait. Before you get to the journal, hold on real quick. Because that was my next part after the football sex. Okay. Real quick. So I think that was a slap in the face. I know if that was me, it would have been a problem. Okay. And absolutely it was a lack of communication because she was acting like that shit was okay. It's not okay. Okay. That part. Two, I also want to say from the beginning, it was a lack of communication because she should have let him know coming in the door what she wanted. That's my opinion. So that initial lack of communication, absolutely. And then moving on after the sex part, she should have and could have and would have said something about that not being okay. But then we moving on. So she took it to her journal. Can we all agree? Let's find some agreeing points, family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we all agree that a journal?
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Journals are personal. Can we all agree that you should not be just reading somebody's journal? Can we agree on that?
I'm sure he didn't think it was that personal because she started off.
He didn't have no business going in it anyway.
Period. Just listen.
It doesn't.
I'm gonna listen.
I'm not saying it was okay, but I'm sure he didn't think it was that personal. She started off talking about him and how much she loved him, and it ended with she missed Brad. Like
she missed that.
She started with him about how beautiful he was.
But even if it was beautiful about him, that doesn't give him the right to read it. It's her personal thought.
I just said that. Okay, he should have read it. But anyway,
so what was the after part? There is no after part.
But he read it. There is an after part. It's several episodes.
That's the part.
He kept reading,
and then was wrong.
He kept writing and kept leaving it around for him to read.
But she should be able to leave her journal wherever she wanted in her house without somebody snooping.
That was literally the only way he could know how she was feeling because she wasn't saying anything.
It doesn't mean that's so interesting. So it's okay for women to go through people's phones if their man isn't communicating.
Because that's the problem problem, right? That y'all be real mad about.
I'll be real mad. Be
I
real
don't care
mad.
about no woman going through my phone, because trust me, I'm
Facebook.
gonna be
And
there saying
don't get me
anything I had to
wrong.
say
I
before
don't
she
approve
get
of
any
any
of that.
If I gotta go through your stuff, then we don't need to be together. So I don't
Right.
approve of that either. But I'm just saying, when women go through Facebooks and phones, I don't think we would be having the same conversation, because it's all wrong and it's an uproar, and it's an invasion of privacy, and it's a lack of trust. But when he's reading her personal journal that he know is her personal journal and not a social media platform or a text message, that's dead ass wrong. And the fact that he
it's like
mentioned it, like he
it's
never
so
wanted to talk
personal,
about it.
but she never asked
Let's
him
go
not
here.
to read it.
We talking about
She never tried to hide it or anything.
Why did she have to?
Never wanted to talk about it. She wanted to talk about it with him, and he kept blowing her off and saying, "No, I don't want to talk about it. We just having a good time tonight. Don't worry about it." He never wanted to talk. He talked about it with his friend at work, which was an even deeper invasion of privacy, because not only did you read my journal, which you weren't supposed to do, you sharing it with your homie. Even deeper invasion of privacy, and then you won't even talk to me about it. That's a problem.
He absolutely brushed her off. He absolutely brushed her off several times.
Continuously brushed her off.
He brushed her. Wait. He brushed her off. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russia. Go ahead.
I feel like he was trying to figure out how he felt about it. Like in the time where they had the sex in the kitchen over the counter, he literally stopped, and it looked like he got scared, because the first thing he said was, "Who are you?" He had no idea she was that person. She was that sexual. She needed all of that because she didn't allow him to get to know her. And she said in the second episode, when the woman came up and he introduced her, and she was like, "That's your ex, isn't it?" And he like, "Yeah, you're not friends with your ex?" And she was like, "Yeah, that was this guy, Brad." And she left it at that. And she literally said, I didn't want to, open my big mouth. I didn't want to risk it. I figured maybe it would come out later, but it never did. She never let him get learn the full her. So it scared him, because he had no idea.
I agree with that.
And then when they went up to the shower, she was looking at herself in the mirror. She had the bruise on her face. He got dressed. The man looked freaked out. He got dressed and he left, but then he came back with a nice dress and said, "I'm taking you out. This used to be your favorite band. Let's go out." The woman sat in the mirror, pumping her breast, and got lost in a daze thinking about Brad. And then she did it again when they were at the club. I just watched it.
No. I know, but I need y'all to really understand. It wasn't that she was fantasizing. Sometimes she was recalling. So the point of some of those times where it was flashing back and going back to things was to give the backstory, to just be like, okay, she's just drooling over this man all the time. She too was reminiscing and trying to figure out how she felt, because she was struggling with the things that she felt. True. She was struggling with, I should be happy. I have the perfect life. How many times does she say that? But something's missing, and I'm not sure exactly what it is or how to get it. But all I can think about is it being related to this. It being related to how I felt with this person. So she too was trying to figure her stuff out too. And it's supposed to be all this
grace came across for him. So many Brads, though.
It's supposed to be all this grace for him. But where's the grace for her, and where she was afraid? Because she was afraid too.
Because the thing that you guys said too as well was that he was processing his feelings. She wasn't saying a lot because she was processing her feelings as well. And I understand and I get that reading that and basically finding out your wife is this whole other person you didn't know she was, or was into a whole lot of things that you didn't know she was into, it's gonna take a second. Understood. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I agree, Russia, with a lot of what you were saying. Sante, I agree with a lot of what you were saying too, because it's that balance. I feel like we can't I feel like men look at it from a real strong lens to the left. And then women look at it from a real strong lens to the right. But it's like, all right, just look at the facts. Like, if that wasn't a man, if that wasn't a woman, just looking at the facts, what's right and what's wrong, or what's understandable, or what needed to happen that didn't happen.
If it was you,
she was trying to figure out how she felt.
Dre didn't rush. Go ahead.
let me just say, that we are looking at it through different lenses, and most of it is personal with the side of objective. What we got to look at is the fact of the character of Cooper, and Cooper's background was very, should I say, milk toast. It was very basic. He was a basic dude, like not a
Very
bad guy.
vanilla. It's okay to use
Vanilla,
the
yeah,
word
vanilla.
vanilla.
There we go, vanilla. Okay, there we go.
He was very vanilla.
He was very vanilla, and that was his life, and he was okay with it because it was like I'm okay. So for him to actually see the spice that was in his wife that he's known for 10 years and didn't realize
nutmeg,
that right, some nutmeg, you know what I'm saying, some nutmeg in it, he's shocked. He's shocked by that. And so going back to so let's walk through this. The kitchen scene in which he was reading and found out what's going on. Yeah. He was processing it in a way that I felt, this is just my perspective, that he was turned on, but at the same time, he was kind of like questioning, is this really her? Is this really what's going on? Is this really happening? Am I really doing this? Because he's never done that before, obviously. You know, he's never done it. He's never bent her over in the kitchen before. So that's something new for him. So let's talk about that for a moment. That he was like, is this really? So it was more like, is this really happening? He's looking at it like, oh my God, this really happened. I'm really doing this. Now, let's fast forward a little bit to the dress situation where they went to go to the pool and to reenact what he saw happen with Brad. Okay? He did that. She enjoyed the intimacy. She enjoyed the rush. She enjoyed all of that. And he was like, and he was living his best life too, doing things he never done before. As soon as he got a chance to calm his ass down and go to that bathroom, what did he do? What did he do?
Got in his head.
He got in his head and threw up. And then what happened the very next day? He acted like he didn't want to touch her.
He shut her down. He shut her out.
He shut her down and shut her out.
Like going back and forth.
And that right there, I think, was the trigger for her, because he shut her down after doing all of this. And she liked it, but it's so foreign to him, and he's still processing, and he can't get Brad out of his head that he turned into a stalker. Okay?
He literally turned into a stalker.
He turned into a stalker about this man that his wife was writing about that was years ago. This isn't nothing recent. This isn't like he saw him at the store. This is years ago. Me personally, I wouldn't care. I would be like, damn.
That actually, it brings up the point that Nikki brought up in the comment section. And she said, I mean, are people so insecure in relationships that someone reflecting on their past is an automatic threat?
Right.
And it's like, but
exactly.
that's for real though. Like, and I get that he was processing and that this was foreign to him for the woman that he's married and had children with. I wholeheartedly understand that, and I do not negate that fact. But this is the past. And she's already written that, you know, she loves you, you love her life, y'all babies, and everything else is wonderful. But she's reflecting and she's saying that she needs these things. And real quick, because Rush, I know I said I was coming to you next. Real quick, after the counter sex, okay, and continuously on after that, it's a consistent thing. And this is going into some other episodes, so I won't go too far into it, but it's a consistent thing that the sex that he was having with her in those moments had nothing to do with her. He was aggressive. Other times she was telling him to slow down or to stop or whatever, and he was not listening, saying random stuff during sex. Like, it was all about him and his ego and him one-upping this guy, Brad. It wasn't about her. And it was clear by the way he was interacting with her. He, like Dre just said, he was in his head about this guy. It really wasn't about her.
I need to piggyback. I done let everybody talk. Now I'm cutting you.
You've been quiet for a while.
I've been quiet. So when he did the whole evening out, that was about her. It was about her. It was about him trying to figure it out. It was about him trying to make that connection and him trying to figure out how to please his wife. Everything he did that night had her on cloud nine. She was happy. She didn't think about that man at all in that time until he had to come and try to call her and get in her head again. But even that happens after she had just got rejected when he went in the bathroom and threw up, because she went in and opened the door and she could immediately tell his energy had changed and things were different. She knew right away. So what did she do? She went in and started preparing for bed, because she was like, that's it. She started pulling the sheets back.
Put me down again.
She knew that was a wrap, that was it. The evening was over. Although she was initially expecting to go in and probably have mind-blowing sex with her mate.
That was the discussion.
And that was it. That was it. For that, and she knew that. And then Brad calls, and he kind of gets in her head again, because now she's been rejected, but she's still trying to fight him off. And she's like, don't call me anymore. She's still trying to. She goes downstairs, and as Drake put a moment ago, here is the straw. He's not speaking to her. He don't want to look at her. He barely talking to her. He's rejected her again. And there she is, like, okay, so we're back at square one. All of that for nothing. At that point, he understood that his wife needed something more. He understood that she was not pleased as far as the intimacy and the passion and sex. He understood it at this time. But what happened? It became about his ego. So he goes, and now he's stalking old guy. He wants to try
stalking.
Spending
money stalking.
Shower. He done went in the shower with the man. You know, he done got in the shower with him to that point so much that he is so threatened by him that he follows this man into the shower to kind of size him up.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right. To size him up
and hurt his feelings. You better leave
and hurt his feelings. He was ready to tear the whole shower up, okay, after that whole thing. But I feel like I do understand to a degree about communication. I'm a hyper communicator, so that means I'm gonna tell you exactly where I'm at, how I feel, what I need, what I want. So I agree that people should absolutely positively be very communicative.
However, a relationship 100.
You should be able to. However, I really do think that it's unfair to say that he wasn't communicating either. He wasn't trying to get to know what she needed. He was ignoring her, rejecting her. Like, that's rejection for women. Like, men talk about feeling rejection. Your husband not wanting to sleep with you, he'd rather watch men throw a football around.
That's hurtful.
It's like, God, I'm on top. I'm on top. And you like, I want to see the game. It's like, I'll be damned. Like, that probably broke her whole soul. And she hadn't had that problem before. And that's what it was about. And that's how Brad ended up to start creeping back in. That's how he was able to get it in, because she didn't have to feel like that with him. That man wanted her. He desired her. And he wanted to make sure she was pleased. Now, was he an asshole in other ways? Absolutely.
But go ahead, Rush, because you was patiently waiting. Go ahead.
No, he wasn't.
I mean, okay.
What?
At this point, it's like I get the whole, her processing her emotions about it, but she didn't have that same shock factor. She knew what she needed. As far as sex, she just didn't say anything. And I get how it seemed so urgent after 8 years, but that wasn't his fault. Like, he definitely should have. They should have better communication in general. But you can't expect someone to know something about you that you don't give them access to.
Yes.
So she didn't give him access to that side of her.
From day one.
And she was daydreaming about Brad. Like, it wasn't just sex. She focused specifically on him. When they went out and she was in the dress, in the mirror, and she was pumping and everything. And she was talking about her makeup, like, I haven't seen her in a while, playing with her hair and stuff. And she's like, I loved her. And she said, and so did he. Because he called me the next day.
No, not
Cooper. Not Cooper.
I know. Yes, I know who you were talking about. You just proved my point of missing him and him making her feel a particular way that Cooper was not making her feel.
We already know that. That was never a discussion. What we talking about?
Here's the problem. He
was not privy to that information.
Why do your spouse needs to tell you, I need you to
because we don't read minds. That's why.
You missed what I said. You listen to respond and not to understand.
I'm listening.
Why do I need to tell you or ask you to be attracted to me or
no.
let me know that you're attracted?
It's not about no.
Go ahead,
I don't think it's about asking, but I do think that in some cases, you like you said earlier, you know your man, and they've been. Remember now, they're 8 years in the game. They're 10 years in the game on this. So for her and him to have this sort of non-verbal type situation going, somebody has to say something. Somebody has to get verbal cues or something, because he's lost his way. Make no mistake, Cooper is much of a antagonist than anybody else, because he was the one who disconnected and left her longing. When you leave your girl longing, what's going to happen is she's going to fuck around and go off of a 10-year-old memory to find something. That's what it was. That's what it was. So I go and it goes back to it. So let me just put this out there, because nobody talked about this yet with our conversations over the board.
I can't talk about nothing. I keep getting cut off.
Right, we coming back to you, Russ, because you didn't finish your
They've been together for so many years, and if she's such a sexual being, why did she never take him to that world? Was Cooper that much of a safety for her that she did not go back into that lifestyle because of him? Because if she would have showed him how freaky she was, I imagine he would have been as surprised.
I don't think she would have. I don't think she thought that he would have still wanted her if he knew. You know,
and that's interesting. And that's an interesting take on that, because
that's valid. That's valid.
Ooh,
but
she
you
said
still
she don't even think it was
if
ever
somebody doesn't love you
person.
in its entirety, they can't possibly love you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I understand that.
Now that I agree with, and that goes back to my point when I was saying, like, we got to keep it 100. Like, taking this storyline and applying it to real life and real issues and traumas that happen. Traumas happen when you are acting and pretending to be someone else. Now, I don't think the wild her
was a safe person, and she said
that was a part of her. That was who she was, and the mother and wife her is also a part of her and who she was. I think the thing is, and another theme of the whole show was the duality of a woman. A woman is not just one thing.
And
she can be a wife, a mom, and get it in. You feel me? And have a great time doing so.
That's where.
But she never told her husband about the gets it in side. Now, I get that she might be scared, and this is the practicum of it. In real life, we cannot act like people ain't been scared, or even you yourself, whomever you may be. Me, Rush, Dre, Sante, at any point in our lives, like, we have always been this confident and just 100 saying stuff. We've sometimes, or some way along the way, been scared to say something to somebody we was in a relationship with. Yay or nay?
Nay.
Well, I always usually say what I got to say.
Probably say too much.
I'm not trying to hear that, Rush, because I know so many of your stories.
I do. For the most part,
there's been a point where there's been something you have been afraid to say because you were scared of someone's reaction. That's just life.
Yes.
That's just life.
And that right there, I understand. I understand what you just said was perfect, because a lot of times, if you look at it with somebody, with dating or being with somebody, and you don't know where they're at and they don't know where you're at. I've had conversations, and I'm being transparent, where people would think that I wasn't down with something, or as
open,
less conservative, intimacy. And I'm like, sure, but you ain't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because we never talked. They just assume, but they assume because of how I am generally. Right, how I present myself.
I'm super frustrated because it feels like all of the responsibility is being placed on her being able to communicate.
He wasn't talking about Billy in that moment.
Let me finish.
Consent is king.
But it's not consent. And then when it comes to consent, if he was forcing himself on her, okay, then of course he needs to get her yes. But why isn't he asking her what she needs? Why isn't he communicating what his
Because he thought they were okay.
I'm talking. That was an assumption.
He thought they were okay.
He assumed, and that was unfair. But you all are constantly putting it all on this woman to be.
No, I'm not.
And
you were talking about yourself, wasn't you?
She should have did, and she should have explained, and she should have water.
Now, in everybody's defense,
he should have done that too. Hold on, sis. Hold on, because everybody got their chance.
No, they did not.
And
because you keep interrupting.
And I keep interrupting because y'all keep just putting y'all points in it. And I need to get my point in because I'm just as angry about how you all are putting it all off on her. And what I think is not being talked about that needs to be discussed is part of why she assimilated into being this person that everyone keeps saying she keeps pretending to be, is because that's what society says it should be. That once you get married and you get settled down and you become a mother and you're a wife, that you're supposed to fit into this one little box. So part of who she was, she felt like she shouldn't be needing those things now because now she's this. So these things can't fit.
Streamline.
She had that with this person, she didn't have this. And when she has this with this person, she don't have that. And so I think for me, that was probably one of the biggest issues, is that women get placed in this box, especially if you're going to be a wife or a mother, that this is the way that should look. But we are a lot of things. I'm not just, this mom. You saw she's a great mom. She was very attentive to her kids.
She's a great mom.
Nursing her babies all the time. And she loves nursing her babies and taking care of her babies and going to school and doing all of these things. But she also loved being a career woman. She also loved being sexual. She also loved her husband. Sexy. She wanted to still be able to have that duality, but it felt like she had to choose. She had to either be this or she had to be that. And
now
she put that on herself. We didn't tell her that.
The part I was saying about the putting it in real life terms. In real life, that happens.
Hold on. She had to choose. She felt like she had to choose, partly because society and partly because she married this perfect man. Every time she talked about Cooper, she talked about him being perfect, and he's this and he's that, and he's a stand-up guy, and they always showing how stand-up he is. And look, he's for the cause, and he's a really good-hearted, squeaky clean guy. And who wouldn't want him? And he's attractive. So what woman wouldn't be lucky to have him? He got his wife sending her coochie in the school in the darn office mailbox. If it was one there, she'd have had it in the office mailbox because she was trying to hit the man, which I want to talk about because he was mad at her for doing the same thing he was doing with his boss. Because the boss,
now we ain't like that. Hold up.
He didn't do nothing with that woman.
I jumped ahead. I got a little triggered. I'm coming back. Go ahead, y'all.
But I think that's the thing. What I'm saying is like communication goes both ways. So I'm not saying she's all in the wrong and he's on the wrong. I think they tag teamed F this up together. Okay.
They did.
Now they F this up as a unit. Okay. But my thing is we cannot negate the fact that if she would have came in 100 from the gate, that these problems probably would not have been happening. Would they have been together? I don't know. But I think again, putting it in real life perspective, we've talked about this with like our non-negotiables and different things like that. A lot of times, and women we shrink ourselves to fit into society's boxes and all this other stuff instead of being true to what we know we want or who we know we truly are. And that is a part of who she truly is. She took a piece of herself off to fit in his mold. Was that right? That was her decision. I can't say it was
I like that analogy.
But she took a piece of herself off to fit into his box. Now, if she would have 100% said, hey, this is a part of me, let me show you some things, would he have gone for it? I don't know, because it didn't happen. Or, you know what I'm saying, would they have been married? I don't know. Maybe he would have, woke up a little bit, got a little spicy with him. But that's the thing. We shouldn't have to break off, male or women. We shouldn't have to break off pieces of ourselves to fit into a box of somebody. You either my person or you not my person. And I think Russell or Dre said this earlier. you can't fully love me unless you love all of me and you know all of me.
I
So
just said
I'm always
That's
about
Russia.
keeping it 100, right? I think it was right. If we keep it 100 up front. So that's where I feel like she made a mistake. Now, he lost some communication along the way. And I don't think it should be all on her to fully say, hey, this
My
is
point.
this is that, this is this, because he wasn't saying that to her.
He wasn't saying
Now,
anything.
he was the one talking about she was starving. Like he was the
What's
my man
so
was
what's so
alright.
hard?
now he
What's
was
so
okay.
He was
Drake,
alright.
he wouldn't necessarily know
I
something was
worry
wrong
for
because
when
he
you
was
marry
good.
Russia.
And he
What's
I
so
ain't getting
hard?
married after watching this show.
What's so hard? What's so hard about saying come fuck me
Right.
the same way she told Brad to come fuck me? What's so
She
hard about
did.
saying that?
No,
No,
she
no, no.
did.
She never said that. She
She
but
no,
she
did.
went to
nonverbal
him though,
cues.
that thing though.
She
Does
went
that
and
is
got
that not
on
the
top
same thing
of
when she
him.
hop on it?
No,
She went
no,
and got
Not
on
the same
no,
him.
thing.
no, no,
So
no, no.
Like
I was
Dre
Look,
said,
not
they've
look,
been having
I'm not
I
even
vanilla
a
need to
sex.
know what
gangbanger,
you
but I'm
want to
Like
stacking
know.
look,
this. I'm stacking this on the boss.
like
I'm
Dre
telling you
said,
two
they
different
had
things.
vanilla sex for 8 years.
Yes,
She ain't never
yes.
said that she wanted to be ravaged like that.
If she said come fuck, I want to fuck. If she would have said that or did something like that to that degree verbally,
He would have been like, who are you? The same
and
way
he
he
would have
did with
fucked her,
that
and he
damn
would
bitch.
have went in.
We
He'd have been
Yeah.
like,
We don't know that.
But
because
it
that's a
would have
We
been
challenge
don't
8
now.
know
years,
that.
2 kids later, and he feel like he don't know his wife.
We don't know that.
I feel like, to Robert's point, yes, they both were
What Robert
equally
say?
the fault. I don't
They
think
were.
that it was just Cooper, but I get frustrated and hyper defensive for Billy because men tend to want to put the blame and the responsibility solely on her communication, and it's not up to her alone.
I'm not
She
going.
went
I
in.
agree with you.
She
Is
went in
it
to try to have
true,
sex with her
baby?
mate. He denied her. He would much rather whatever it was. He much rather had did this. He
I'm
even
really not rocking
admitted
with that
to his
football thing.
friend. He even admitted to his friend at work, his coworker. He said, I just don't be thinking about it. I don't really be wanting to. And so is this. So what is she supposed to do with that? And then
He didn't say he didn't want to. He said he don't think about it because he be tired. That's what he said.
He said he
Stop
don't
adding all these extra
You
words.
be real
thing.
Stop adding all that extra stuff.
It's the same thing.
You adding too much.
He don't think
If
about
he
it.
wanted
It's
to,
the
he would
same
have.
thing. Why is he not thinking about it? He should be thinking about it.
The
No,
man is thinking about taking care of his family. That's what he's thinking
He
about.
ain't on that.
No,
We've
but
already
when
established he's not on that.
Inlay pipe.
But when women do that, I
In
cannot
a
tell you
regular
how
world,
many
yeah, but
men.
the scenarios.
Now so you probably won't be able to hear it if you're not married. But if I have married men on here, chime in. I hear actually the opposite, which is why I'm super
That
frustrated.
part.
So whenever I talk to lots of married couples, it's usually my wife don't never, we go this long without, she don't never want to do this, she don't never want to do that, and I tried this and I tried that, and she tired or she mad at me because I didn't do so and so.
Especially if she a stay-at-home mama.
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
trying to figure out how Billy wasn't tired.
She stay at home or go to work because I've been both. It's the same. It's the same. My point in this is this. It is not different when the shoe is on the other foot. I've heard married men complain about their wives not wanting to put out, not giving sex, going so long without sex, and it being a problem. So now that the roles are reversed, which is why I like the show, is because it's completely puts the shoes on the other feet. So now you have a wife saying, I'm displeased. I'm not getting what I need. She ain't had sex with the man. She's damn sure crossing the line. I'm not saying she's not crossing the line, but she has not had sex with the man. And at the point that we're talking about, she's merely just writing about it. She hadn't reached out to him. She hadn't been trying to set up anything. Like all she had did at that point was write about it.
We got an hour left and 7 more episodes.
Okay. All she was thought about it and write about it. Okay.
Let me say this. Let me say this.
I'm talking.
You talking.
Right. We're gonna have to let Rush finish his statement though.
And if it had been on the other foot, it would have been something about this woman not taking care of home and her not
It
taking care of her
absolutely
husband's
is.
needs.
He
And
would have
men
told
are
her he
set
wanted
up,
to have sex.
and men are set up to be this way, and men need this, and men need that, and that's how men are created, and women should understand, and women should know. I feel like it's putting so much responsibility on her to be able to communicate that. It should have been on him too. He should have been paying attention. And if at that point when she came in and she was trying to get it on with him and he wanted to watch the game, he didn't apologize to her. He didn't see it was nothing wrong with how he made her feel.
Yes, he did.
He felt a little.
He
He
said,
felt a
I'm
little
sorry.
salty.
He said, I'm
He felt a little
sorry.
salty, but male pride only gonna go so far.
He literally said, I'm sorry. I'm just so tired. Those were his exact words.
That cop out. It's a cop out line. It's a cop out line, but he said it.
The same thing I've heard wives say.
How many of y'all trying to have sex with a man while he watching football?
Why y'all be trying to have sex with a woman after she done took care of the kids all day and she done cooked dinner?
Not the same correlation. No, not the same thing. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. Not the same thing.
Ain't it the same thing, Trey?
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's the same thing.
You can catch a score and rewind the game and catch the replay on Sports Center.
Man.
Oh, that is no. You cannot dictate how we watch football. You cannot dictate how. That is a quintessential man law across the board.
From here on out,
I'm taking this to Facebook.
No longer,
I'm taking this to Facebook. Watch it.
Take you to the book,
Look, what it is that she saw Cooper as a safe place.
To deny them.
She did see Cooper as a safe place.
And she literally said that she saw him as a safe space.
For real.
She did.
She met him literally 1 month after Brad. She didn't even take time to enough time to heal from that.
Well, actually, she wasn't trying to go for him, but her friend made her and pushed him up on her, and she was like, "All right, I guess I'll give it a try." She wasn't trying to give him no play initially because she was.
No, she wasn't.
No, she wasn't. When he met her in the courtyard, she was packing him.
You can flirt with somebody, that don't mean you want them.
Her friend didn't make her marry
initially
him.
When he first walked up and was trying to ask for direction, she like, "It's over there. Why you ain't ask the police that was standing over there? Why you coming to talk to me?"
It's called. Wait. Now, see,
you know
what? That right there, that's that black woman sass. Okay,
yeah.
He was trying to mac to her, and he was doing it in his way.
Wait a minute, I'm not gonna get on the bandwagon.
Right, but that's my
black
point.
woman
He
sass.
was flirting with her, and she wasn't trying to go for it. But her friend was like,
"But he won her over. But he won her over, and they end up hooking up."
Right, I said that because Rush said she didn't wait. She hopped in a relationship, but she wasn't trying to.
She wasn't trying to.
She did.
How many times have we not trying to fall in love? We're not trying to fall in love. It just happened.
She's a grown woman who is very.
So Rush's point, there's a whole lot of more that has happened.
How you getting to my point? I ain't said it yet.
First off, if you let me finish what I was finna give you credit
the whole issue is that you ain't letting me finish.
Because you talking a bunch of gibberish.
Am I? Look, like I was saying, Cooper was a safe space for her.
You already made that point.
She put herself into that cookie cutter role. He didn't ask her for that.
Oh my gosh.
That was her.
He didn't come out and say, please be this way. But I already said about
the man was authentically himself, and it was her responsibility to be authentically herself.
Maybe
that's not his problem.
I agree with that. However, that still takes away from where they are now. Because now they're together, they're married.
It don't take away because they in the situation because she didn't let him know the real her.
They're in the situation because there was no communication on both behalves. It's not all of Billy's fault. Because
we understand that.
They both made
effed up royally.
The main issue, one of the main issues was that she needed something that he didn't know she needed.
Just wants to blame it on her. It's
both fault. No, what he said made sense.
It's starting with the fact that he didn't know that she needed something.
That's fact.
But she didn't let him know she needed.
But when he did find out that that's what she needed, what did he do?
He took her out on a date, bought her a sexy dress, and she spent most of the evening.
Let's break it down by points. Real quick for the audience, let's break it down by points. So from episode 1, 2-ish, where we at basically, the notes that we have is that communication is important. It's all up and through the comments.
It's
Also,
important to
I
be your
think something
authentic
that
self.
hasn't been said, but it's kind of been talked about, is security. You got to be secure in your relationship and where you are. And I don't think he was, for him to get so caught up in this. Also, respect and trust, because he broke trust by reading her journal.
He did.
He was secure until she started talking about how he was getting up, how she was getting her back broke a decade.
But he wouldn't have known that if he didn't read her journal.
Oh my!
I'm
It
on.
gave him the privacy.
I see both. I mean, it's okay. So
let's
it's
pinpoint it. So we got trust, security, right? Communication is a thing too. Being 100 from the gate, okay? Saying all your truths and being authentically yourself from the gate, and expressing your needs. I feel like that's a huge one. Express your needs in relationship. If you're not expressing your needs, you can't expect them to be met either way. Okay.
right.
He definitely broke trust. He definitely broke trust.
He definitely broke trust.
Journal, Robert.
I would agree that
Wait, Robert, you don't agree that that's breaking trust?
No. I would agree that as they went on, it became more about his ego. I would agree with that. It became more about his ego, but she was not helping the situation. Now. Let's move on. Break it down. To break it down, it started with the journal. It started with the journal. No, listen. It started with the journal, right?
It started with the journal.
Then he finds out that Brad is contacting her, right?
But that's way later.
No, we didn't find that out yet.
It's not way later.
No, it was.
It was later.
He didn't know that he was in contact with her until it was a while ago. It was
midway.
It was a while going on. Because I think
she was in contact with him. They said she was trying to blow him off, but a woman that really don't want to talk to you would just block you.
Okay. And she did not.
And she did not.
We were saying that she was crossing the boundaries.
If it was any other man, she'd have shut it off. But it was him.
Brad
yes,
told
it was him. We've already established that it was something about him. We never said that it was a random. He made her feel a particular way. It was about Brad, but it was about her. He made her feel a particular way, which is why she was so drawn to him in the first place and why she was drawn to him afterwards. She liked who she was when she was with him. She liked feeling sexual with the way she was when she was with him. She liked being able to be wild and adventurous when she was with him. And she wasn't getting...
That's not all she was when she was with him.
It was all she was.
A career woman.
No, it wasn't.
She was a career woman.
She was doing what she wanted to do. She was doing getting published and such.
She was also a woman begging for commitment and stability and couldn't get it.
Want commitment.
She was also a woman who was having miscarriages while he cheating on her at the wedding and stuff like.
At the cousin wedding.
She wasn't just a very sexual being, and it was all fun and games. It was more than that.
I did not say that she was, Russia. So now you're hearing from the triggered ear. Listen, it wasn't that she was saying that he was perfect. She knew that he wasn't perfect. She knew that he could not ultimately give her all of it. That's the whole thing about the show. Neither one of the men can give her all of it. Brad cannot give her the stability that she needs because she does desire to have it. And Cooper can't give her the fun, the wild, the passion that Brad can give her because she desires it. So the whole thing is about...
Because my man's had a real job.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, a corporate job instead of like being a.
So Brad
he owned a music studio.
So what?
But check this out. One note that I want to put in there is to when you are in a relationship, you gotta keep it fun. You gotta date each other consistently, and I think that was a real life. Again, bringing it to real life from this show. If you do that, then you fall into situations like this. Because I think we keep forgetting the fact that when she was expressing how much she really did like him, but she was just a little confused at the moment because of the lack of sex. she was saying that they did have good sex initially. They were going out, they were having a good time. Like, I don't know if it was head over heels passion, because somebody in the comments said she don't think that they ever had passion. I think they did. I do think that he was a safe space and comfortable. But even if that's the fact, she chose him. Now, once you choose somebody and you're saying this is the commitment you're making, both parties have to continue to work at it. They were happy at one point. She still loved him because she kept fighting for his ass, even when she should have stopped, in my personal opinion. And he wanted her too.
She kept fighting. Okay.
We're going to get there. We're not in them episodes yet. Let's let
she kept fighting.
She did keep fighting for him.
They were fighting for each other.
They were fighting for each other.
She wanted
after he would have got mad after punching old dude at the party after getting some dummy dome.
Billy never did anything wrong to Brad. Billy never did anything wrong to Brad. Brad was always fucking up.
Yeah, that's true.
Brad was always fucking up. And for me, let me just say that Billy, at the end of the day, it's about being happy and being in love and being whatever your goal was. And at that time, Billy and Brad were two peas in a pod. They were two bees together. They was that couple. They were that couple, and it was good. And whatever the case may be, but what the evolution of their relationship, meeting the parents and seeing what's going on with that situation, she side-eyed that because of his reaction to his stepfather and everything like that, and Brad was like, man, I come from a fucked up family, you know what I'm saying? So this is who I am. And that was a whole nother piece. But she gravitated towards that because she wanted to love on him more, because she felt like she could work with that.
She can nurse him back to health.
Exactly.
And that's a woman's issue, because too many
people
think we can heal a person and we can't.
So, but they were still together. They didn't really have a real breakup, in my view. They didn't have a real breakup until he cheated on her.
What Brad did wrong. Did you watch the show?
Oh, what Brad did wrong? Brad, wait a minute. Hold on. Alvina, hold on. Just
you didn't see what Brad did wrong?
Spoiler.
Hold on, Dre, because y'all skipping
past watch the show
that I really need to talk about. That's super important.
Okay.
So to Natalie's point, now I've been in the same relationship for, if you want to include dating time, 18 years. So you do go through different transitions. And one of the things that I've learned is, yes, you can go out on dates with somebody and y'all can date and go do all of these things, but ultimately that is not going to necessarily create the passion in your relationship. That comes from intimacy solely. You have to be able to talk to each other. You have to be able to know your mate and know what your mate needs, and that comes from talking to one another. That is important.
Because honesty and communication is the strongest force of intimacy.
It is, but also important that I feel like we haven't talked about is Billy had a chemistry with Brad.
Yes.
And when you have chemistry, you don't necessarily need to say certain things. It just exists. So I think her having this very intense, this very fluid, this very natural connection and chemistry with someone kind of set her bar for being in this marriage a bit differently as well, because she didn't have that same chemistry with her husband, not even from the beginning, because when he first even tried to approach her, she wasn't there. But from the first time she saw Brad, she was smitten. She was like, oh, I'm curious about this one. And she went out and she was like hooked, because they had this unspoken chemistry, and chemistry can be just as important in a relationship as anything else. She didn't have the same type of chemistry with Cooper. Cooper was struggling to have that same chemistry with her, because also Cooper wasn't set up like Brad. He just
was healthy. He didn't have all his childhood trauma.
What you say?
He didn't have all that childhood trauma.
That's what they talking about.
Because there's some other issues that come up down the line that makes it a little more spicier and a little more complex.
I did want to point that out, though, that it was chemistry, because we hadn't talked about the chemistry yet. And some of the things I keep hearing being said, especially by men, is, well, she should have said, she should have told, and maybe she should. But I also think that a big reason why she didn't is because her understanding was that it should just be fluid. It should just be there, because that's what she had with Brad. She didn't have to tell Brad those things.
She didn't understand.
She didn't
She
have
didn't
to.
think that.
How do you know? She did.
She
How
didn't
do you
think
know
that.
she
You just
did?
gonna say what she didn't think.
Because
How do you
she had
think that Cooper was
many
scared
interactions
and
with
he would have
men
been better
and
if
knew that
he had a kid?
she didn't have chemistry with all of them. So she wasn't no expectation for her to just have chemistry with him right off the bat.
That is not what I said. So you heard what you wanted to hear. What I said was she had an expectation that things would be a particular way because it was so easy with Brad. And yes, people do get that impression. Chemistry matters. When you hear people say stuff like, if he's not my type and I'm just not attracted to them, like there's no chemistry, that's because there's nothing there that's pulling that person in. And chemistry goes without being said. You don't have to talk about certain things when you have chemistry with a person. It's just there. She didn't have to ask Brad for these things. She didn't have to remind him to tell her that she was beautiful and that he desired her. She didn't have to do that. It just existed. So she
So what
didn't
kind of
want
chemistry
to.
But
did she
she
have with
asked him a
Cooper?
whole lot of other things though.
We're not talking about that, Russia. We all know that Brad's an asshole, and we all get that Cooper was stable. We all
I
understand
get this whole chemistry thing, but what they had was very toxic.
it
was
was
Ooh.
toxic. It was
Yeah.
absolutely, and she
Right.
recognized that it was toxic, which is why she didn't end up staying with him, even though he put her ass out. But she didn't go back. Why she
Okay, wait.
gravitated
So just to
toward him.
reiterate, the young lady does know what Brad did.
She
In
does.
the comments,
Okay.
she was basically
That's my
saying
sister,
throughout the
y'all.
storyline, she
My
was like
sister.
she wasn't understanding what he did for her to break up with him if she's still fantasizing over him. Now I get that point too. And the trauma aspect, absolutely, they were a toxic relationship and it was traumatic because Brad, it was a give and take, a pull off and on, all in your feelings, hurtful type of thing that she should not be accepting. Absolutely. Now, fast forward just a little bit, do I think he has healed some and have shifted some?
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't really change. I think that he wanted to believe.
Is he
that
still toxic? Yes.
He didn't change. He didn't change.
He's very. I agree that he's toxic. Anytime that you willingly film yourself
That
screwing
part.
the best friend and doing
That
all that
part.
stuff, and you know that she's married and you're still pursuing her to that degree, that's toxic behavior.
He
That
knew
part.
she was still craving
He's
it.
absolutely
knew.
still toxic.
Yeah.
I think that he realized that he had stronger feelings for her and he never expected for her to completely go away. I don't think that he's healed, and I think that that's what she realized at the towards the end when she almost went there with him, and then she was
Well, no,
reminded
almost. I
like
can't wait for season 2 so you can cut that out.
she was almost. I'm not talking about the very
You want to talk about that part?
I'm talking about when they was in the gangway from going to the art museum or whatever it was that they went to.
He is manipulative. Very good words.
So they almost went there, and she realized that he hasn't changed, and that's when she ended up running home and trying to get home on time.
And then she ran right back.
Russia.
Okay, wait. Let's keep the storyline going.
This
Though.
is why
Can we talk about one point real quick that's like not on the sex thing, but just on a like real life issues that
you talking
happen?
about something else, Russia. We talking about
I'm off that part, y'all.
moment.
Listen. Can we talk about a real life issue that's not necessarily in the relationship aspect, but a real issue that needs to be discussed? Depression, and then like, yeah, she was depressed.
Toxic chemistry only leads to good sex. Mm-hmm.
She was depressed. She had postpartum depression, one after she had baby girl, and that's a real life thing. And then that depression of that life shift from the life she used to have and the way she used to move versus her being a mother and a wife. Now she loved her kids and she loved being a wife. That could be negated, I guess, if somebody want to say that. But she was a great mom and she loved her babies and she loved her husband. But that does not change the fact that there's a shift that happens that you have to mentally go through, and it's kind of depressing sometimes when you think about the way you used to move and the life you used to live versus having children and shifting that. And I think that played a large role in her reminiscing on that woman that she used to be versus who she is now. And that kind of played out in the conversation she had with her friend on the phone when she was out at the club and she was outside in the middle of the night. And then she kind of later on in the episodes where we kind of are talking about now, where she was flashing back, and she kind of goes through that journey of it was hard hopping out the shower because the baby crying, and like all of those are real life things that men don't necessarily fully understand, because y'all for the most part, most men get to, okay, baby here, they go off to work, they live in their regular life, come back, boo boo boo. But for a woman, it's a whole process. And I know that men have a process too, becoming fathers. Their life shifts and change as well. But it's a whole nother thing.
It's very different. And
I don't want that to be lost in the sauce either.
And we're not going to get that lost in the sauce. But that also plays to the role of why it was super important that when he wasn't acknowledging her and he wasn't paying attention, that she felt so much more lost in the roles. Mm-hmm. You have to refine yourself. Every single time you have a new child or something else shifts, or a new hat or a new role that you acquire in a relationship, you have to find yourself again in all of those things, because you will absolutely get lost in all of that. And she absolutely was lost in all of that, which is my point of, it wasn't just about Brad and the sex. It was really about her. And not recognizing who she was anymore, and not recognizing what she used to be and what she wants to be. And that made her vulnerable to reminiscing and thinking about and trying to find a connection to who she used to be. And her connection to who she was happened to be him. She felt more connected to or closely to who she was at points when she was with him than now, because there is this expectation that you have to, fit in this box when you become a mom. Like when you become a mom, you become a wife. This is what you should be. This is what you should do. Now, while he didn't force her to, stay at home, he moved out to the suburbs where it's all of these stay-at-home moms in this community where she felt like
all of them moms was miserable.
All of them was miserable. Every single last one of them was
she
miserable.
Messed it up.
And lying
all
to themselves about being happy, because one thing that women don't get to hear, because society tells us different, it's okay for it not to be enough to just be a mother and a wife. It's okay for that to not be enough for you. And that wasn't enough for her. Like, she loved being a mom, but that wasn't enough for her just to be someone's wife and someone's mother. She wanted to have her career and to be this wild woman sometimes. She didn't want to be this suburban woman. She talked about missing the city even and living in the city. Like, everything was different. Everything was different for her. And she got so far away from who she used to be, both running from her trauma. She was running from her trauma from Brad, which is why Cooper was so stable. She was running from that, which is why it was so attractive to her that Cooper wasn't like that. But in doing that, she did kind of aid in losing herself, but she was lost all the same. And he did not help her to find that. He was making it worse because he stopped seeing her too. Mm-hmm. Not even just if he didn't know her sexual self, he stopped seeing her as a woman.
Period.
He no longer saw her as a woman anymore. She was his wife and the mother of his kids, and she might as well have been an extra piece of furniture in the house, because he literally came home and was just like, "How you doing? Good." I mean, hell, he was nicer to the maid at times than he was to his own
wife. They
was
roommates for sure.
So imagine the shift into how that made her feel. But I want to get to a very important episode, because we are at the 9:30 mark. And one of the things that hasn't been brought up is the sub story of his boss throwing herself at him constantly.
I'm waiting for that one. Yeah.
We there.
And he was not shutting that down whatsoever. He done took He done took the woman's
kids. You cannot compare. You can't compare that. You can't compare that.
This woman gave him keys to the crib and said you ain't gotta go home.
It doesn't matter. That's why that said, no, it's the same thing. I'm not saying that what the boss did justifies what Billy did. I'm not saying that. But
Cooper, you ain't brought up the other stuff though.
But Cooper was allowing this boss to cross the line. He should not have been doing that. And then when he got mad at Billy, which I do
Went
think
and stayed the night at her crib.
They
He
didn't
went
do
and
nothing.
stayed the night at
And
her
then do
Billy didn't
shit.
do that. Billy wasn't
Then-
going to stay the night at Buddy's house.
Oh my god.
But she
It's
had
not
watched
the
it.
same.
It's
not
the
the
same.
same.
No, it's
It's not
not.
the
It's the
same.
same.
No, it's
the
not.
same.
So it's okay to get mad at your wife
He
and
didn't
go
even
spend the
want
night
his
at
boss,
somebody's
though.
house who's
He didn't want his
actively
boss.
trying to
Can
get
we-
your ass.
Can we?
It is
Can we?
not irrelevant to the story.
Yes,
His
it
boss
is.
is.
Not okay.
It
His
is.
boss
Information.
was inappropriate, and he
Okay.
did not shut that down with his boss.
Okay.
He
What
did
you
not
supposed to
shut it
say?
down.
Okay.
What you
And that
supposed
Okay.
to
wasn't
say?
okay.
So he can get fired.
He can't.
Nah.
She couldn't. Nah, he couldn't have got fired because he'd have went his happy ass to HR. She was about the
He
book.
ain't had no proof.
So she claimed she was about the book. He had proof. He had keys to a goddamn house.
Okay.
He
Wait.
didn't have
They
it
weren't
at
even on
first.
that.
He
They're
didn't
not
get
even
the
on
proof
that.
to
They're not
weigh
even
it
on
in.
that. They're not even on
To
that.
weigh
They're
it
not even
in.
on that. Can I please like
What
chime
they
in
not
on that?
even
Wait,
on
who's
that?
not on that? Elaborate.
Okay, so going off of the comments about what Angela and Alvina just said, I agree with them to a degree. So,
I'm
Cooper.
trying to find.
Okay,
Cooper was
so
out of order.
Let it go
Cooper.
too
Okay,
far.
so
Let it go
listen,
too far.
we have to. We have. Can I? Okay, let me get this out.
Okay, go ahead.
So there's a lot of you got to understand about what mind space Cooper was in by that time. By that time, Cooper was going through a true identity crisis for himself and for his wife. He did not know because at this time, remember now, he done went through situations about going one-on-one meeting Brad. He done got on a one-on-one with having those in the kitchen fantasies, jacking off to the journal. He done went and tried to do sexual stuff with his wife that was like hit or miss. Okay, let's keep going. Then on top of that, it got to a point to where this is actually after the dinner. This is after the dinner with Brad. He was all fucked up after that. So we talking about a person that's in a very discombobulated mind space. I'm not saying that he was right, but I'm just letting you know what's going on with his state of mind. Now, let me hold on. Let me bring it home. I'm going to bring it home.
That you guys can't see that same correlation for.
Let the man bring it home.
Time out. Wait a minute. We're not on that right now. We're still concentrating on.
Let the man bring it home.
No, we have to do this. We have to be fair. We have to be fair to this, okay? Trust me. I hear what you're saying, but let me be fair. So, by the time Francesca rolled up on him, it was after that dinner. It was after that dinner.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was because she said
she had been throwing hints because he went out. She had been throwing hints at that man.
No.
She was like, I left and I followed you here. I came here for you.
No. Can we back up? No, that wasn't that point. That wasn't that point. That was after they won the deal, after they won that merger, which happened after that dinner because he left.
No, it didn't.
He did. Did he not leave the dinner? Go roll the tape. He left the dinner to go be with Francesca, and then he won that. And that's.
But his boss had already made a pass at him and was making very passive aggressive.
That's what you picked up on, and Brad. No, but Cooper was very like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead because he had nausea tried to, but he kept the game face on. It wasn't until after the dinner then he started to let his guard down and started to accept it.
Yeah.
Understand that on his part, correct? Because she was flirting at the gate. Yes, she was flirting at the gate. She was flirting, but he never gave her the light of day on that until that dinner.
But
and then he went, and then what happened? He went home, and he was so because remember he was still mad. He didn't go home that night. Right. He didn't go home that night. He went to her house and talked about her the whole night on the couch.
He shouldn't have gone there. Period. He went there. He went there as a
Brad. No, he went there at that particular time. At that particular time, she was an outlet for him. And he took that outlet. Now, whether or not it was a good choice, I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. But you have to understand the state of mind. He did not do that. Even when Billy said, even when Billy
It
said,
doesn't matter. It was
so it doesn't matter.
Oh
That's
my
not fair.
God.
That's
You've
not
been
fair.
talking about
It
Billy's
does
state
matter.
of mind all
It does
evening.
matter.
Now it don't matter.
Right.
I'm
Y'all
not
want her.
saying.
So I can't understand how you guys can constantly hold Billy to a standard and not hold
I'm
this
not.
man to
No,
a
listen.
standard.
I'm saying no. I'm just
was
giving you the
inappropriate.
perspective.
Yes, he was messed up. Yes, he was messed up. Yes, he was hurt. Yes, his feelings was all over the place. But it was inappropriate for him to go to that woman's house. Whether she was an outlet.
I'm not saying it wasn't, but you understand whether or not it's
Okay,
inappropriate. He did not have
play the devil's
inappropriate.
advocate for a second?
He did not have
If we can
he
say
did not
this
have
for
inappropriate.
Cooper.
His
That was an
mind state
inappropriate
wasn't
interaction with
inappropriate.
her because he knew what she wanted at that time.
But he didn't go.
Real
But he
quick,
didn't do
hold on.
anything with
It
it.
didn't matter
If
if he
we're saying
did.
this for
Billy
Cooper,
I think
didn't
it
either.
does.
because he was a
Billy
married
didn't
man who
either.
spent the night at a woman's house who was
You
absent.
alive?
That's
Billy
wrong.
didn't either.
But
She
listen,
had to have
if
sex
we're
with that
saying
man.
that based on these issues and the mindset
He
and the
was
trauma and the
masturbating on
situations that was happening
FaceTime with
Cooper,
him.
that Cooper went ahead and did these actions, and that's kind of, it's not saying it's right. I get that y'all saying it's not right, but it's what's happening, right? Can we say the same thing for Brad? Because Brad was acting the way that Brad was acting based on his trauma and the situations that he had went through.
Which part?
Brad was single. He
So
ain't
if
had no.
we doing a justification for
no,
Cooper, is it the same justification for Brad?
No. I'm
Because
not.
Brad ain't
Listen,
married.
I am not. Just because I'm explaining it does not mean I'm justifying it. I'm giving you the perspective because what's
We didn't
going
get
on.
the perspective. We knew why he went there, Dre. But
Why did he go
said
there?
It was inappropriate. He
I
went
understand.
there
So
to be comforted. He
to be
felt
comforted,
And he said that
He
later
felt
on, that she
rejected.
makes
He
him
felt-
feel a
He
certain
felt
way.
rejected.
right,
He
and everything
felt-
else, right?
Hold
So
on. He felt rejected.
going back and
Hold on,
forth.
Frank, hold on. He felt rejected by Billy. I don't agree with the dinner. She definitely embarrassed the hell out of him, and the whole setup was foul as hell.
She was done for doing it.
It was
You
foul
tell
as
her
hell.
that.
It was about her. It was selfish of her to even set up that dinner. She did it for her. It wasn't right for her to do that. I agree with that 100%. But you don't then
And
go
she was that ass
her.
wrong for letting him in the house to see them kids.
Hold on. She ain't had no business doing that shit. It was awful.
I'm glad
However,
Brad won. If Cooper was there, he would have killed him.
Cooper
Cooper would have
was
killed him.
wrong. Cooper was wrong for going to that woman's house, knowing that she was interested in him more than just that.
I understand that.
I
understand that.
Hold on. She had already declared that she was interested in him. She had already told that man that she came because she has been around the block and she knows enough and she's going to be waiting for him. She had already did all of this stuff. They almost kissed when he got her in the car. And then when she was going to be on her way, then she was like, okay, you know what? Actually, why don't you come with me? She did the same.
She didn't initiate that. He did. Tell me, you want that drink?
She did the same thing that Brad was doing. She knew that that man was married. She knew that she was married, whether she felt like he was happy or not.
That's
she was
a
doing
reach.
the exact. It is not a reach. She was crossing the line. She was all but telling that man, well, when you leave her, or why haven't you left her yet and come be with me? He gave
that wasn't all but telling her. That's exactly what she was saying.
She gave that man keys to her apartment and said, "You don't ever."
Told him,
that was the end. That was after. That was towards the end. That was.
It doesn't matter. She was doing the same thing that Brad was doing. It was crossing the line, and if he should have,
I understand. Yeah, it's crossing the line, but you talking about the time
Why
frame
would he
going
shut
on?
it down when she doing all this other stuff?
It doesn't matter. It's
but
not
that's
what
tit for tat, and that's traumatic within itself.
If
you gonna do tit for tat, y'all might as well not be together. That tit for tat shit is trauma and is bogus.
I mean, we gonna ignore the fact that he was gonna let her go, and she told him that she wanted to be with him, and then ran.
That's the end. We ain't there yet.
We're going to the end. We're not even there yet.
We need to be. It's after
we're not there yet because we need to talk about the party.
You know, you
we got to talk about the party.
We need to talk about the party. And Dre, you on mute. We can't hear you. Wait, Dre, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, my hand did that. I want to hear Mrs. Tate's conversation and thoughts about this. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm gonna hold my tongue until she finishes because I know she's gonna say something crazy I might not agree with, but I'm gonna go preface that. So go ahead. Go ahead. Go
as far
ahead.
as the party, he was wrong. He was absolutely wrong, and he took it way too far. And it was very painful to watch. And at this point, I like out of all the things, because although I'm repping for Billy, I get Cooper's side of it. I get feeling like you're not enough. I get feeling like you're not sure what your mate need, and feeling discombobulated while trying to figure it out and play the 20 questions. And why can't you just communicate? And when they're not communicating, you trying to figure it out. I get being tired and trying to balance all the different hats in life. I get all of that. I go hard for Billy because I feel like everybody's putting the blame on her. But this and where he took it for this party, I lost all respect for him at that point. I lost all respect for him at this point. Now they go to this party and she says, I'm not really feeling comfortable. And he said, well, let's give it a try. We're already here. Let's walk around and just see what's going on. So she's like, okay. So they're at the party and they're having a good time. And so they start getting into it. And she gets turned on. And she's like, okay, I like this. So I'm good. I'm where I'm at. This was exciting enough. Let's go home and finish this. Hell, they probably could have just got it done in the car. No.
Well, they tried that car already and it didn't work out right. Remember
okay,
they tried it in the car?
Yeah, you know, the whole milk scene. I don't even want to go into that because it's hilarious. Like, I felt triggered. But anyhow, so he is saying, he's undressing her in front of all of these people. She's saying, I don't want to do this like this. Okay, that's enough. Like, I want you. I've had my fun. Can we leave?
But that's going back to the ego thing. It wasn't about her at this point.
It wasn't about her at that time. But even more so, I was so irritated with him that he blamed her for this and how he treated her after he allowed her friend
after that
to give her to not only give him oral, but she swallowed in front of a friend. Okay. And he was mad at her. He was mad at Billy.
He was big mad at her.
For him doing it, and she begged him not to. She said, please don't do this. She's crying.
She stood there and cried.
She's crying, holding herself, pleading eyes, saying, don't do this. And he looks her in her face and
exploded. It exploded.
That was like next level fucked up.
That was way worse than all of it.
I think no, it wasn't. I agree. I agree that it was fucked up because I felt uncomfortable watching her experience that, and I could only imagine, like, seeing that of you telling somebody, like, you know, like not the fact of about her being uncomfortable, but with another woman, because at that up to that point, she never did anything with Brad. She was fantasizing over a memory. That was the first tangible sign of sex without sex with somebody else. So I felt that she had a right to feel violated and a right to feel upset. And I think that the other chick was out of pocket. But I get it. But I get it. I get it because that's the world that they was playing in, and that's the mystique they was trying to push for the story, because I can't imagine nobody getting away with that in real life. I don't know. I don't know how freaky y'all are, but I don't know. But I just can't imagine somebody getting away with that, saying stop and then you still doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I just can't personally imagine that. But he did that out of recklessness. He was definitely recklessness. And going back to his space, because what happened, these people keep reminiscing and flashing back about the past. He was like, oh, she did all of this. I'm going to show her that I can do shit too. You know what I'm saying? And like Natalie said, it was so much about him that he was like, do it. But then when the tables were turned and dude went after her, he went ballistic.
And she wasn't even going for it.
Of course not. Of course not. But he can't know.
He wanted to. He never wanted to do all of that stuff. It wasn't about her having quantity of people. She wanted to have a quality of
Right.
sex life. And
Right.
so it wasn't
And
that
that's
she
even what
wanted
she
to be
told
with
him.
him.
She's like, this ain't us, and we don't have to do this, because she
And she
still
kept,
wanted
and
her
she
husband.
asked
She just
him
wanted a
not
little
to
more
do
spice.
it.
Not
And she
crazy.
just, but she wanted to have the spice. And
Albina's
it was
violent,
more
y'all.
to me, it was more to me than
Mhm.
my ego. It was like, I'm gonna prove a point, fuck you. I felt
Right.
like it was a
Right.
fuck you.
Right. Right.
Especially when
It
he looked
was
at
a
her,
fu. It was a
when
huge
he
fu.
looked at her in her face, and while he told old girl to do it, he
Do it.
looked at her, he stared right in her eyes and said, do it.
Gay that look
Even
at me.
though he
I
saw
feel
that
like
she was
you don't
devastated.
give a fuck. Like, you
Hold
don't
on,
give a fuck about this woman if you can look at her face and she's telling you no, and
but
she's
he
fucking
didn't.
crying.
At that point, he was so angry that he couldn't measure up. He was so angry, he felt like
Ego.
he had lost already. And so he needed to do something to get back. And that was what it was. It was totally revenge. It was totally, you've made me feel this way all this time. And now I'm going to get you back. And I'm going to make you watch. And for him to get upset and beat the hell out of his coworker and blame her for it, when she said, let's leave. I
She
don't want to do
said, "Let's
this.
go," before you
Before,
try to strip
before
her in the
any
middle
of
of this
that,
room.
she
That's why
said,
I
we
said
don't
so
have to
many points
stay.
of it for them was
I didn't.
uncomfortable for me, because it was like, I know this is your wife and that's your husband, but you damn near raping, because she's saying no. She's telling you to slow down. She's telling you this, but you are not listening to her.
Because it wasn't about that. It was about him. It was about him feeling powerful again. It was about him feeling in control again. And so if that man hurt her to the core, embarrassed her to the core, because he embarrassed her, that woman was boo-hooing in front of all of those people. Her friend saw her, and for her friend to come over and say, trust me, I got this. She was just trying to take an opportunity, and she too violated her and was
Yeah,
trying
they
to
both
hurt her.
did.
And it was
And
just
I get that they was
inconceivable
at a
for her
swingers
to do
party, and
that.
I don't think it was a problem for them to go to the party, get a little spicy. But they had already decided that they were watching, that they were checking out, scoping out the scene, and that was cool. Get it how you live. But as soon as she was like, "No, I'm good, babe, let's go," that should have been like, "Shit, let's get it." You know what I'm saying? We gone. But he just wanted to one up it and do something different. And then, especially when they first got there, and she said, "Oh, I've done a lot of things, but I ain't never done this before." He was instantly like, "Oh, we doing
That
this."
was it,
This is
right?
how
He wanted that. Yeah, right. He wanted that prize.
He wanted to try to be better, and he felt like he couldn't measure up to Brad up until that point, because that was something he didn't have with her. And he could have still had that experience with her, which is what made me angry. It became so just spiteful and
It was
so
horrible.
angry. It was horrible. He could have been able to say that we experienced this and now we're making our own path. It was the perfect end to do that. But instead, he chose to hurt her.
He chose him.
He chose to treat her the way she didn't deserve to be treated. After all of that stuff, that was taking it too damn far. Like, he took it way,
and then taking it further with being angry at her about it. But then she made me mad. I'm gonna be honest, she made me mad by brushing it off, because even at the end, after like next day he mad at her, same day he mad at her, he won't come down, he won't talk to the kids, all of this, and she's like, "No, it's okay, it's all right, it was technically consent because we agreed to go, don't worry about it." Girl, you got me fucked up. No, that shit was not okay.
She did. So I think at that point,
and that's why, hold on, real quick, this is to Rush's point, because Rush was like, she fought for him. This is where she was fighting for him, because I would have been like, "Fuck you, I'm gone." But she was like, "No, baby, it's all right, it's okay, don't worry about it." No.
And okay, and I'm gonna argue even that it wasn't even necessarily fighting for him. I felt like she was feeling guilty up until that point, and so now that he's done this, it was kind of like, now this washes it clean. So now I've done my thing. He didn't know at that point she had pleasured herself while watching Brad and Sasha have sex. So Cooper didn't know that, which was also very much crossing the line, very much also doing something that shouldn't have been done. It also crossed the line on her friend with Sasha. Like, although they had a type of relationship where they did those things, she wasn't aware and she didn't consent to that, and that wasn't okay. And so she also hurt Sasha in doing that, among other things, and putting Sasha in the middle. But I feel like Billy trying to wash it clean and say it's okay was part guilt too, because she knows she had done some things that was not okay and not acceptable. And she was trying to say, okay, the score is even now. Now we should be able to be fair, forget all of this and move forward. And I did feel like that wasn't fair. While I hate what Cooper did, I hate that he took it there. It was like way over the top. I don't feel like it's fair at any point to be like, okay, we all good now. Like the score is even. You good? I'm good. Like whatever feelings we got now, let's just move on and pretend like this never happened. Apparently that wasn't possible, and apparently there was something so much more deep rooted with Cooper that it wasn't simple enough for him to do that. I didn't like how Cooper also, even after being mad at her for the shit he did, the way he treated her in front of his boss was like, wow, in front of the boss, how he treated her was just like, you got to be kidding me.
And she still just like, it's okay. I want
it's
you.
Okay.
It's
you didn't tell me she was beautiful, and he was like, I didn't think I needed to. I feel like there were a lot of things that were being done on both sides that were the same. But for some reason, Billy is the only person that people are seeing is doing the things wrong, because Cooper was crossing these boundaries with this with this boss hard, because when this heifer gave him a key
and says you ain't never got to go home again.
Why haven't you left her yet?
Okay, so
I want to be with you. Be with me.
Can we fast forward and say why she said that? Because this was after. It does matter in the grand scheme of things. In regard, I'm not saying that it wasn't right. I'm not saying it wasn't right. Please understand.
That man
I'm not
had
saying
enough money. He can go get his own damn apartment. He didn't need her key. Cooper is well off. He didn't need her key to her place.
He dropped stacks just to stalk dude in the gym membership.
You have to understand at this particular time, he's once again, y'all not giving the recognition of him being in a fucked up space. If he's in a fucked up space, shit that don't seem logical seems logical. He's making irrational decisions based on his inadequacies right now. And so when he has somebody that he told Billy, she makes me feel in a way that I haven't felt in a very long time, because they speak the same language and they on another level. Right?
Ain't that the same thing with Brad though?
Exactly. So I'm saying. So he has his own version.
I haven't heard you give Billy. So out of all of this conversation, I've never heard you or Russia say, you got to understand.
You ain't gonna hear it either.
Where Billy's train of thought was, she done been rejected from her husband. She feels lost in the sauce of being a mother and a wife. She don't feel that she recognizes herself anymore.
Tell her about what I didn't say. I told you from the beginning that she felt neglected because he was coming in and not recognizing her. I said that. I also said,
but where's the grace in her dealing with Brad?
Can I finish?
Go ahead. I'm waiting.
Okay. I never said Billy. See, you keep projecting. I'm gonna use that word. I'm gonna use your word. You keep projecting on me. That's saying that I'm saying Billy is the bad guy. Billy is not the bad guy. I didn't like Billy for her final decision. I was rooting for her up to that point. I understood everything that was going on. I might not have agreed
because that wasn't fully understood, Dre. So I'm glad you actually said that.
Yeah.
I understand what's going on. I understand what's going on. But my thing is, every time we talk about Brad, I mean Cooper, it's like, oh, Cooper got his own state of mind going on, and he's experienced all of this shit for the first time. He's experiencing all of this stuff for the first time, and but that's because he was pushed to that based on what was going on with Billy. He was pushed into that, and his mind state was not there. He still loves Billy. He still loves his kid, but he's at a point now where he knows that he doesn't feel like he done met Brad. He done had a situation with Brad, 2 situations with Brad by now. You know what I'm saying? So now he's like, what the fuck? And then Francesca coming in with that relief, like, hey, I see you going through something. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think you fly, but if you want to come here and chill, you can come here and chill. And then after that last incident, she was like, he was like, that's a confidant. That's a confidant. And he said he makes her feel, but it wasn't even sexual. What's going on with them wasn't even sexual. It was more along the line of them vibing with each other. They attractive, yes,
But
because she's
here's the
attractive.
thing: it
But
doesn't
he's
matter
not
if they
fantasizing.
respect.
Who's
It doesn't matter.
he ain't fantasizing over fucking her.
Infidelity is
Right.
infidelity, and we need to recognize that if it's
Okay.
emotional cheating
Okay.
and mental
I'm not gonna
cheating,
lie. Okay.
it's still cheating. It's still crossing
Right.
the line. So
Right. I'm not saying that. Right. I agree.
while Billy was sexual, she was drawn to the feeling, and for her, the sex and the way and she felt with Brad
It
was
was
that
still
feeling.
physical. They still have physical
It doesn't
intimacy.
matter. It
It
doesn't matter,
does.
Dre. Cheating is cheating.
It does.
No. I'm talking
Cheating
about
is
no. We're
cheating.
not talking about
So
cheating. We're
I'm
talking about the levels we're talking about now.
So what the whole purpose for me of this show was to show the parallel and how both of them are to blame. Both of them are kind of contributing to the same things, and the behavior looks different when it's you. So that is something that I felt like was a message in the story, but that gets missed because most men are going to point the finger at Billy, and apparently some women are pointing the finger at Billy, but a lot of women are pointing the finger at Cooper. But I also find it interesting that usually these roles are reversed. So usually this story is a man talking about him not getting these needs felt sexually, him not getting the things he needs from his wife because she's so hyper focused on everything and neglecting the relationship, which was one of the things I really loved about the show. Is it completely flipped it because it's not always like that. It's not always the woman that's, not putting out and not taking care of home. Sometimes it's the man that's not doing it, and sometimes women need something more than just this and they're not getting it as well. But I feel like the same grace is not being looked at for Billy. The same things that Cooper was feeling, that's exactly how Billy was feeling. It's just that hers came first. Her show came first. Her show of emotion, her show of neglect, her show of trauma, whatever. It all came out first before Cooper's did. And Cooper made a lot of decisions that were crossing the same boundaries that Billy was. And it all added to the breakdown of the marriage. It consistently added to the trouble that continued to go on. He should have checked his boss. His boss was coming at him from the gate. From the first day she came in the office, she was giving him the eyes and making flirtatious comments. From the first day.
Because the friend called it. He was like, she wants you.
She wants you. His friend said it like, oh, the boss got the hots for you. She knew that she wanted this man. She didn't care who he was with. And she automatically assumed that he was going to be with a wife that didn't deserve him. And she kept saying that in many different ways. She had every intentions on trying to steal Cooper. And I don't give a damn what his state of mind was. He could have went got his own place to stay. He did not need them woman's keys. And taking those woman's keys was just as equivalent to her running to go and talk to him, not at the end, but when they went to sit down and talked about where he was.
Oh,
and her
you was finna hear him.
He stand up on that one. He was ready.
I'm not talking about me
too.
I'm talking about
I was ready.
Almost to the end. But let's get to the end because we almost at the 10 o'clock mark and we cannot not talk about the ending. And first, let's go to about what led up to the ending of her running to see him. And I think what triggered her was listening to Sasha talk about having
definitely, that wasn't what you would think. That was definitely what
it
triggered
was
her. I think
her realizing.
But we have to also talk about the point that after the thing happened at the party and everything kind of exploded, they did reconnect and decide to say, you know what, we're gonna leave this in the past. We're gonna do what we need to do to work together. She went back to work, kind of fulfilling that I need to get back to my, self type of thing. They was making it work. They was having more sex. It was getting cohesive, it was getting good, right? And everybody seemed to be real happy. And then they went to Sasha's book launch or talk, whatever it was, and she started to talk about just that, the situation, what was happening, how, women leave off pieces, and can you have everything, all of that. And that's when she was like, oh shit, am I really happy? Am I settling? Am I giving something up? Should I, and then as Russia was trying to talk about in the first 5 minutes of the show,
Because that's
She
all it
ran
was.
her happy ass down the street.
Because for Russia, nothing else really mattered except the end. Like that's all it
Man,
was.
because they really took
Don't
away
be
from
speaking
everything.
for
I was
me.
mad.
I
I
am
was
speaking.
mad. I
Don't
was
Now,
be
mad.
for me, I was like, okay, because I was rooting for them. Though he had said F her by getting the dummy dome at the party and all the other stuff that she did and everything that had happened along the way that he did, reading the journal and everything else, I was like, okay, they seem to have figured this thing out. It seems to be working balance because everything's about balance. But then that conversation happened. She was sitting there listening to Sasha. She either did or thought she seen him up in the rafters and started flipping out again. And when she ran over there, my initial thing was like,
But
and he
hold
got
on,
the
we
tracker on the phone watching her happy ass run over there.
The part though, hold on, sis, because it was that. So it was like she had that confirmation from Sasha talking about the whole, you're gonna you find your own way, and then this is the third way of doing certain things, and you kind of let go of this and let go of that, blah blah blah. But then she goes to the kids' play or whatever that was, and the old girl Trina who gave her husband the job.
Oh, Trina egged it on some more.
Egged it on, and she came to her and said, "Well, now nobody's gonna be doing it because of your little speech, you and Cooper's speech the other night. So I hope it's enough.
Swing no more.
I hope that this life that we all have to live now is really enough, because if it's not, we all in trouble, because all of the women were unhappy. All the wives were unhappy. They were suppressing it. And so that was the issue. Her sitting there realizing that, am I actually suppressing who I am and trying to force myself into this box? Can I do it? Now, I am in my mind to believe, based on how it happened, that some way, somehow, Cooper knew that, I know he was following her on the phone, but why was he following her phone?
Because he knew what was going on. He knew the deal. He ain't no fool.
That's where I was
He
getting
ain't no fool. She done dipped out how many times already?
I feel like at this point, Cooper knows that it's going to be hard for Billy to just fit into this box. And I was interested in how he even decided to follow her phone, because they were supposed to be letting things go. So that also brings up another issue of trust. They still hadn't really rebuilt the way we may have saw them rebuilding if he felt like he couldn't trust her, and that it was possible that she was going to go back. Because remember, he said he's always going to be 10 miles away. He's going to always be up the street. So for him, it was like he still always had his guards about him, because this guy was still sniffing around and he was there, especially learning that he proposed to her, which I thought was full of shit.
First of all, real quick, can we, I just want to say, we don't really have to discuss it because I know we've run a long time. I thought that conversation with them was real. That was a real grown-up moment for them to both sit there and have that conversation. I was really glad that they included that, because Cooper was ready to let her go. He like, just let my kids, look, they gonna be a part of your life. My kids gonna be good. You gonna treat her right, and I'll walk away. And for him to go, no, but she wants you, and them to sit down, have a drink, and talk that thing all the way through. I thought that was a really grown-up, cool moment.
She wants both of them. And I think that that's the problem. She wants them both, and she can't have them both. And that plays to, it's like she had those 3 confirmations, because we skipped the part of her initially talking to her friend who is the doctor, and he was saying you can't have stability and you can't have the spontaneity together. You is one or the other.
I beg to differ, though.
I beg to differ as well. I think you have to have the right person for that.
And in order to do that, you have to be 100% authentically.
You gotta be 100%
the choice and the option to say, "Hey, I'm down for that too."
Facts. So I think that that's where it was. But I'm gonna let Russia.
I was just gonna say, let's slide it over to Russia.
I'm gonna let Russia talk. I just feel the dark stares, like he cutting me right now with his eyes, because this was probably where he was the biggest triggered for me, when he called going off for like 3 hours, calling her all kind of names, and he kept calling her flat-footed wench or something like that.
All the names.
He was calling her a flat-footed wench or something, and I was like,
all types of names, honey.
I said, how you know she got flat feet? He was like, she got flat feet, and she took her flat-footed ass and ran all the way to him. So why was that a hard moment for you, Russian?
I think it was a hard moment for me because um, Cooper was willing to let her go if he thought that she would be happier in that space. Um, because I think at a certain point he realized that he couldn't keep up with what they had. They did have a spark. I think it was rooted in a lot of toxicity, but they had a spark, and I think he was going to be mature about it and say like, I love her. This obviously she's obviously struggling, because he saw them, from the window talking and stuff. He didn't know what they was talking about, but he could see that she was struggling, and so he was gonna step back and let her, have that. But she told him that she wanted him, that she wanted to stay, she wanted to work it out, and I thought they were gonna move into a nice direction. Um, but I mean, it may be just me, but I kind of felt like Sasha was kind of problematic for me.
Sasha was rooting for them though, and she
Sasha,
was
In
checking.
a,
She
in
was
a, in,
checking
I think
Billy.
in a backhanded way, because she was rooting for them, but then her book opening was literally talking about her and how women code switch and make themselves smaller, and they have this need for release. She was literally talking about her. So it's like,
Yeah.
how are you telling your friend who you know deeply to stay in something that you know she is struggling with, and then you're talking about her and basically saying like she code switching and that she's making herself smaller, and you know she's already struggling.
Right.
Not to mention she knew how she felt about Brad. She knew. And even if they hadn't been together for a while, she was still sleeping with him. Like I'm sorry, I don't expect that from my friends, even a decade later. Not when you have that type of connection with someone. She was problematic for me, and it was just. I think it was kind of it was like it was like a big letdown, because it's like they could have. I think at that moment where Cooper was willing to step back and let her, go on and be happy, I think that would have been a path towards something a bit more healthy, maybe a little bit in the long run, you know. But when she took it upon herself to say that she wanted him, and then she realizes as she's watching this kid, it's like, oh my God, it's not enough. Again, a perfect opportunity for a conversation that she threw away. And it pissed me off. It pissed me off greatly,
Greatly.
because I felt like in a in a roundabout way she kind of took his decision away, because it's like, you know, you told me this is what you told me you wanted this.
final answer.
You told me you wanted this. And now you don't even, again, you haven't talked to me about it. You realize that it's not enough for you. You haven't talked to me about it. You immediately run to him. And now I'm thinking about, their marriage as a whole, but then also the kids and also their neighbors. Like you just said, all the women were miserable, but they had made themselves comfortable in that misery. They had found other outlets, but now they all have to live without these small outlets that they had because of her and her speech and these grand gestures and stuff. And now she gonna run off because she don't want to stick with the decision that she made. And I think in terms of, relationships and monogamy and all that, and that was another thing. She put herself in that monogamous thing, like when she was having that debate with her teacher, her professor. I personally don't believe that you're going to get 100% of the things that you need from one person. I don't. And when you put yourself in those boxes of being monogamous, or even if you do, it's going to be harder to find. When you put yourself in those monogamous boxes and put these limitations and restrictions on yourself, you're going to go without something. And is it fair? No. But is it realistic? Yeah, at least in my eyes. And so it's like, is thrilling sex and desire, which we all know how enticing it could be. In that moment, it was like that was more important than maintaining the family structure that she built. And at the end of the day, you have the freaky guy, and then you have the stable guy. You know, we need more than sex. I get that we need more than, just love and all that. But I think there should have been a conversation at the very least when she realized it was not enough. But she didn't give him that opportunity.
But she did tell him, I'm not leaving my husband. I think she still wants him.
But no, I agree. I hear what Russell's saying, that she.
I hear all of that.
So absolutely. At this point, they have rectified the situation. They're supposed to be moving forward, and it seems as though Cooper is trying to make those adjustments. And again, she did not talk to him about what those triggers were that took her back to that same space of confusion, and that wasn't fair. I don't agree with that. I do think that was why it was so important that last week, before this conversation, the prelude conversation was negotiables and non-negotiables, because for some people, sex is not just a small thing. It's not just a little thing. Having chemistry, excitement, and intimacy with your mate is not a small thing. It can be very much a non-negotiable and very much a huge important factor in having a healthy relationship, and for that person to be able to function at their best in their relationship. So while for some people it may be this big, for other people it may be that much more important. And to say, like, I think what the big question is how much emphasis should it be when you're trying to have this, and how does this fit into having this storybook, by the book, white picket fence life? Because that's essentially what she had. She had this white picket fence life over here, but it still was that something missing that just wasn't enough. And yes, you're going to have to really sit down and sit with yourself and figure out what your negotiables and non-negotiables are. But I also feel like when it comes to good sex, when it comes to intimacy, that should not ever be in anyone's book a non-negotiable. It should never be something that you just toss aside, because those things are more pertinent to a healthy relationship than we realize. Intimacy keeps the connection. It keeps you into each other. It keeps you tethered to one another. So if you don't have it and it's still that something missing, you got to figure out, like, is this person actually that person that you have what you need? And that's why a lot of people are saying, I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait to find the right one. I do think that sometimes we do have these unrealistic ideas, but I also think that sex, in this sense, it wasn't just the sex for her. It was literally feeling still like she was not being her true, authentic self with this one person, with Cooper. She wasn't really being Billy with this person. She was trying to still fit into this box and fit into this idea of who she was supposed to be. And she couldn't commit to that. She couldn't commit to being this little monolith, this one thing.
You know what? I didn't think that was fair, because she was the one that was 100% all for monogamy. And then, like, you can't make a split second decision like that just because you're unhappy, because it's not just you.
Not right. That. Yep.
It's not just you anymore.
Right. I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we have to think about Billy's state of mind at this point, though, because Billy's state of mind at this point is she's,
but I feel like throughout the entire, No, I feel like
She's
throughout
really
the
trapped in
entire
this idea, and the idea is like a pressure cooker, and the pressure cooker is really messing with everything, and
no,
so
listen.
she's not thinking
I feel
straight.
like throughout this
She's not
entire
thinking straight.
series, she did not sit down and think about what it was that she truly needed. She was obsessing over what she was not getting, but it wasn't that true. Like sit down, like okay, is this something I can live without, and blah blah blah. It wasn't any of that. It was more like an obsession, and then she got caught up in all this ego stuff between Brad and Cooper and all of that. And I think she should have
She
taken the
never wrote
time.
out her non-negotiables.
She should have taken the
Man,
time to figure
Non-negotiable.
that out.
To
But I
understand
just
her
thought,
state of mind, y'all.
listen, I just
I'm
thought
just
that
saying.
after they had that conversation and things was good, I just felt like it was the ultimate, like she spit in his fucking face.
it was
It was like the head.
When she just left and ran to him. And
the
I
same
think
night. The
they're not
same
going
night
to
of the
be
fucking
able.
play. The same night of the musical, he
Yeah,
left her. I mean, she left
and
him.
I think um she has now brought them back across a boundary that they're not going to be able
Go back
to
from.
come back from.
Can I?
I honestly, so my
Go ahead,
hypothesis
Dre.
is for season 2 is that this won't actually have happened. I think that it's gonna play
It
out
was all a dream.
to see what happens. But I don't think that it's gonna actually be what happened. I could be wrong. I
They
mean,
got a
You're
trailer
wrong.
up here for season 2. I'm finna watch it.
do
Where's
they?
the trailer? The when it's supposed to come out?
I wish I could show it on here and screen share.
You can
They got
screen
season
share.
2
It's a
trailer?
button right
You
there.
Yeah, but
lying.
then they gonna flag it that you can't do this and that with it.
You lying.
I'm watching that.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, it's a 2-minute trailer for season 2.
When they say
Wait a
it's
minute.
supposed to drop.
Wait.
I didn't see nothing about it dropping, but I
No,
did see
it's
the trailer.
renewed. No, it's renewed for season 2, but there's not a real trailer. I don't think it's a real trailer. I think it's just a.
Because I'm like, that mean if this is a trailer, that mean they recorded already.
Yeah, because this just came out.
Oh wait,
so-
never mind. It say season 1. Never mind. That's my bad.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like,
It's been
okay.
renewed. It's been renewed for season right here. 15 hours ago. Fixed Sex Life reportedly renewed for season 2.
Oh, 15
So-
hours ago. It's because we talked it up. That's
We
what
done
happened.
spoke it up. We done spoken
They
it
was like, oh, we're going to talk doing a whole show on it. We got to get in the season.
I think for me, I'm all about like equality, respect, and communication. Once you void those things with me, we don't have anything else to talk about.
Can I please chime in and piggyback off what he was saying? Because it's right. That's
I'm
my.
going to testify to Billy's state of mind because I'm curious about her state of mind at this point. You said that so eloquently.
Since you want to go that route, fine. I'll play your game. I mean, she's strictly for herself at this point. I mean, like Russia said, man, they did all of that fighting. They did all of that fighting between their friends, between the job, between everything that's going on to rebuild and trust and do everything, and just it's us against everybody else. That's how they ended up. It's us against everybody else, and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do it. And then she caught that feeling and that vibe because, first of all, once again, going back on the writing and going back on how vivid everything is, I understand that it created those emotions, but that's when you supposed to hang on to your man the most, not run to the other motherfucker. That's just not what it's about. So when she did that, as Cooper, I would definitely be pissed. And even when he called Francesca, she was like, "How you doing?" He was like, "I'm not doing well." He not saying, "Can I come over? Can I come through?" At this particular time, that's the person in his life that he could talk to because his guy,
He done already beat him up.
he already beat him up. Even though they reconciled and everything like that.
So that's the same thing when women be like, "That's my guy friend."
Wait. Let him finish something.
I'm just talking about my emotions, and you be like, "No, you can't be talking to that fool about stuff with us."
Let him finish something.
That's projection. That's projection. That ain't the case yet. That's not this yet. We already know the situation between them. But I'm saying when she did what she did, once again, Cooper has no other choice but to talk to somebody and do whatever. Now, what he gonna do, we don't know yet. But you can't. But you can't sit there and minimize. But you can't sit here and minimize his feelings. Okay, we already talked. You already went out here and talked about all what Billy going through, and she had to shrink herself and grow herself and do this and do that and fit in the pots and everything like that. What about Cooper and how he's feeling? As a man, if I sit there and do everything I can to win and to win. To win, I want to win. I want to keep my wife. I want to keep my family. I want to keep this going. I want to build and do whatever and do everything I possibly can. And think you won to have your girl go the fuck away and you see her on your fucking phone to see where she's going. What do you expect him to do at that point?
Hold on, though.
What do you expect to do at that point?
Okay. Here's the thing, though.
Without being on Snap.
Hold on. It's unfair, though. I really need you to acknowledge this because this is a problem. That man should not be talking to that woman. He needs to find himself a therapist or he needs to get him another because she's already stated her intentions at this point.
In a perfect world, that may be the case, but that ain't how this drama is set up.
It's not about it being a perfect world. It's about living up to a standard that you would expect for yourself. He's still crossing the line. He's crossing the line just like she's crossing the line because I bet you he ain't shut that down completely with his boss.
He made a phone call.
He made a phone call. She went to go get fucked. She went to go get fucked.
You guys are hearing what you want to hear. I never once said that it justifies what Billy or Billy is okay for doing what she did. What I'm saying
he went to go do this. He's doing this. And he went to go do this.
What I am saying is the boss has already said she wants to be with him. He has keys. He didn't get them keys back to that woman.
He want to do. He ain't so much as kissed the girl yet.
It's 17 minutes past.
Okay, wait, it's my turn.
When men be like, women always got a man on the bench waiting. You know, it's always a man sitting around. That is Francesca. They have completely
you doing a lot. She ran to go get some keys, and you talking about him making a phone call.
She is there for him to pick up when he wants to talk to do all of these things. And it's the same thing that if a woman did that, it would be inappropriate.
She was doing it.
Oh my God.
Natalie, can you say your final remarks so I can get on the
have not acknowledged that what he was doing was wrong.
Okay,
I'm not saying that what Billy did was right, but the fact that you guys are not holding this man to the same standard is a problem.
Because
he should not be talking to that woman, period. He shouldn't be talking to her. It's not okay.
So you're saying it was okay for him to neglect her and then left her open to
that's not what I said.
That is what you said. That is what you said. You said she was left open and vulnerable because her husband was neglecting her. That's what you said. I heard it because you said it more than once.
I never once said,
that's what you said.
And I never once said that him doing that justified her going and talking to that man and doing the things
you said. It left her vulnerable, and that's why she did it. So same thing with Cooper.
No, I did not. I said
that she did.
Vulnerable. I said she was vulnerable, but because I never once said you. Listen, Russia, you're not gonna put words in my mouth.
That's what you said.
I never said that Billy was right. I never said she was
right. I didn't never say you said
okay.
Right.
I never said that what she did, she had the right to do it. I never said she was justified in doing it. I only stated the facts. The facts was that Billy felt neglected, she felt rejected, and she had these feelings. Those are true. We all agreed, well, except for you, because you
and you said no, and you said because of that. It left her more vulnerable for Brad. All I'm saying is that this is now what Cooper is going through because she's running her raggedy ass down Manhattan.
And what I said was that it's still all wrong. So whether you're vulnerable or not, the whole point is just because you're vulnerable, it doesn't give you the space to go and do this. You need to make different choices then. You need to have different conversations with yourself and your mate. And you need to make different choices. I never
How was he
said
supposed to call? He called her.
Russia,
She answered the
Russia,
phone
Russia,
because she was on the
Russia,
elevator going to get
Russia,
going
Russia,
to get
Russia, Russia,
lifted.
Russia.
Lifted.
Be quiet before I mute you. I said,
You're abusing your power now.
what I said was because you're triggered and you only hear what you want to hear.
No.
I said that he should not be calling that woman. That if he is that done with Billy, he need to make some decisions. He needs to get the hell up and decide on if he gonna stay or if he gonna roll or whatever. Him constantly talking to this woman is also inappropriate because she's already said her intentions for him. She's already said what she wanted. And so he knows.
So baseline, can we agree that it's also inappropriate? He talking.
It's also my point, but
with no other context or ifs, ands, or but baseline, is it also inappropriate, guys?
It's inappropriate for him to be talking to his
We're
boss.
all in agreement.
My point. But see, I wasn't, because when
Are these your final thoughts, Sante?
When I said that, Dre was like, but you gotta understand where Cooper's brain was at this time. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It still shouldn't. He still shouldn't be doing that. That's still straddling the same fence that this woman is straddling. And either you gonna not straddle the fence on both paths or you're not.
Well, she got to straddle him. So
she got to.
Natalie, what are your final thoughts?
Oh, this to sum up. Okay, let me go to my list.
Sum it up, sis.
We 20 minutes over.
Sum it up.
I'm gonna sum it up. In my opinion, I'm gonna start by saying that I truly feel like all this comes down to how we started, which is conversation, communication. Okay, communication is absolutely key, and I wrote it on my son's what you call it, etch a sketch joint right here. I don't know if it can be seen.
We can't see.
Wait.
It looks like a dinosaur. B100.
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 We got.
If everybody needs 100. We won't have these issues, okay? If everybody come in the gate saying who they are, what they want, with their non-negotiables in hand, we don't have to waste time with foolishness and otherness, okay? Because this is what I want. Either you're that or you're not that. I'm okay with it either way, and we on to the next, or we gonna make this work. I feel like that's how everyone should come in the door. My opinion. That didn't happen here, okay? But now that we in it, right is right, wrong is wrong. Again, like we've already stated, they both gradually and tremendously F this up. Okay. When it comes to the end, though, she dead ass wrong. Like she's dead ass wrong. She's wrong. It is wrong. The whole boss thing, that's inappropriate. Yes. Okay. He was handling it well until he didn't. Okay. Then he didn't. All right. Now, my thing here at the end, this is my take on the end. Your relationship is your relationship, whatever that relationship may be, okay? Whatever label you want to put on it. But they put husband and wife because that's what they decided to do. Now that there are almost 10 years in the game, they need to reevaluate that relationship and see if the original rules still apply. In my personal opinion, I do not feel like the original rules still apply. So I would like to throw this out for you all in the audience members watching. This is another conversation that maybe we can have at a later date. But it seems like they need to be poly to me, because he also want to talk to Francesca and she also wants to talk to Brad. So maybe season 2 needs to be them figuring out how to be with other people and together at the same damn time.
And she was the one pushing for monogamy.
Not exactly poly, but
I don't
open
think
marriage.
they're poly. I don't
Open
even think
marriage.
that. I don't think that Cooper really actually wants an open marriage. I just think that he's using old girl to feel better at this point. So I don't even think he really.
I think that's something that we need to normalize, that your relationship is whatever the fuck you want it to be.
It is whatever that you want it to be, but I feel like, so my final thoughts on the whole thing is you can't be 100 with somebody else if you're not 100 with yourself. I think really what the issue is the self-reflection on both points, on all of this. I think that nobody was really sure about what they needed and didn't need. I don't think that they were even in tune about if they can provide efficiently what the other person may or may not need. Once things came to the light about what one may have needed and one didn't dislike, I think that there was still a lot of lying to themselves, all of them. I think that Cooper lied to himself. I think Billy lied to herself.
Cooper was fine till Billy came with all her confusion.
You know, I swear I'm gonna mute him if he say one more out of the landish thing, okay? One more Marshall.
I'm gonna do it.
I'm going to mute
He
him.
said, I'm gonna do it.
And so, as I was saying, I really feel like Cooper was not being honest with himself either, as he wanted to try and fulfill things, but he really needed to recognize that maybe that he's just not that, and asking a different kind of conversation or a different kind of thing from Billy. And I think Billy ultimately wants to have that stability, but she feels like she shouldn't have to give up this other part, and knowing that Cooper can't fully ever give it to her the same way that she would like to have it, she needed to be honest with herself about it too. So more than being 100 to the other person, there needs to be a whole lot of self-reflection in marriage. That is one of the things that people don't realize, is that you constantly have to do self-reflection. You constantly have to take account to where you are. You are responsible for your actions ultimately. While there are things that may affect how you feel in the marriage, there may be things that may discombobulate you in the marriage. Ultimately, your actions are your actions and yours alone. So whatever decisions you make is really because you chose to do that. So whether Billy felt neglected or not, she chose to do the things and cross the boundaries that she did. Whether Cooper felt shocked and off his square or not, he chose to do the things that he did, and no one can force you to do any damn thing. It really is up to you, and you have to stay with account of your own personal integrity and who you want to be in a relationship, because that's what matters at the end of the day. Not what somebody else wants you to be, but who you want to be. And so those are my closing thoughts. And yes, I do agree that running to the man at the end was effed all the way up. I ain't making excuses for her, but I swear, y'all make one more excuse for Francesca, I'm flipping all this shit over, because that heifer's fat.
I ain't got no excuses on my book. She did what she did. She shot her
She's
shot.
a ninja. Y'all don't know.
She was her own person and responsible for her own actions and her choices. And she said, I like you and I want you.
She shot her shot.
No, she
didn't
didn't
get to
say
where
I
she
like
was
what
by
I want
taking
you.
no
She
chances.
said, I'm gonna take you, because when you figure it out, I'm the one you supposed to be with. That's what she told me.
Like, I'm not gonna wait till it's over. I'm gonna
Do
let
you
know
want
now
him? Do you want me? Because I want you.
Baby.
I gotta know. I gotta know.
I'm gonna get off this here live.
But I really feel like at the end of the day, the message that really stood out for me, it was a lot of themes in this. Womanhood was a thing, sexuality was a thing, motherhood was a thing, duality was a thing, relationships was a thing, sex was a thing. It was a whole lot of themes to this show. But at the end of the day, I really appreciate what you said, Sante, because that's the thing. If you are honest with yourself and then honest with the people that you are talking to, then you can find a relationship. Life don't have to be hard. I feel like we make it hard. We try to fit into boxes, and yes, society says that we are supposed to, but skip society. Be 100% authentic to who you are and communicate that with whoever you're trying to be with, so that you can mesh and be happy together, so you won't have to end up like Shawty Doo-Wop. The end.
Wait, who was Shorty Doo-Wop though? Well, who's the Doo-Wop? The Shorty.
Billy.
Oh, yeah.
Confused and running down streets after kids recite.
I don't really think the lady is confused at all. I just think that she doesn't want to give up certain things. I don't
That's
think
confusion.
No, she knows
she want
what
her
she
husband.
wants.
She want Brad. She want the kids and the family. She want the amazing sex. She can want what she want, but she needs to want it in the same person, or she needs to leave them both alone.
But that doesn't mean that she's confused. That just means that she is not being realistic and honest with herself, because she can't have it with one or the other. So she's trying to build a man. You know, she got a part Frankenstein piece over here, Frankenstein piece over there. And you just can't do that. You can't do that. And she does need to be honest with that. Some people don't need to have to be honest with that, because they are poly, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Be open, like if that's what you own, and if your partner isn't accepting of that, then that's not your right partner. I feel like we have to be okay and normalize the fact that everybody ain't for us, and stop trying to take pieces off of ourselves to suit somebody else just because we honestly, I think a lot of it is because I like this person, or I'm tired of being single and I don't want to be alone, and we keep breaking stuff off to fit molds. But it's like, be authentically whoever you are, because at the end of the day, that person is going to see that regardless. So like I think Dre was saying, consent. Give that person the choice to say, this is me. You good with that or no? And then be okay if you're not.
give me the information so I can make an informed decision. Like I want to make informed decisions. Tell me
Absolutely.
what I'm getting
How
myself
much?
into.
Real quick, and I'm gonna let y'all go. This is the last question. Like, for her to feel that restrictive to not divulge her her full sexual self. Let's just say that her full sexual self with her husband. I think if she would have did that from the beginning, not tell him about the past, but just do things for him and with him and kind of put him into a space, I think this would have been a lot different because that's what she was looking for. I think if she would have I think if she would have put it on him, it'd have been a different story. But we don't know how they dated. We don't know how they did what they did. You know what I'm saying? It could have been very, like Shantae said, vanilla. But I really do think that if she would have brought the spice to his life, it'd be a different story right now. Because right now he's discovering that he got a freak in him. He's discovering he got some freak in him.
And it scares him because that's what
Yes.
also another reason why he was mad
Yes.
at her, because he's like, who am I turning into? Who is this?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
so that was the point I wanted to make before we headed out with that, Dre. The reason why that doesn't happen is shame. So women feel shamed if they have too much of a colorful past, right? Some of the things that Billy did,
and that's common. That's not like no uncommon
but you're
runoff
not gonna
thing.
go.
That's like pretty
You're
average.
not gonna go and tell somebody these things because more than likely you are going to be judged and you're going to be shamed. And what Cooper felt was why he was so angry about who he had become was because he felt shamed. So what I think is a very important thing that we didn't discuss is the shame in that and sexuality at times, which is very much a generational curse that we've talked about several times, especially when it comes to femininity and sexual feminine energy, is that there's a lot of shame in being sexually explorative and having been sexually experienced. So I feel like a lot of why she probably didn't was because she's looking at this very vanilla, very straight laced man
that she wanted,
and that she wanted at this point. And what must he had thought of her if she said, "I'm swapping mates with with my best friend and having sex here, there, and in the stairwells." And so there's always this fear that you're going to be judged. And I'm here to
y'all know it. Like, it's been a thing. Y'all was young men. The girl getting called to bust down or a hoe because she likes sex and boopity 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 boo. Like, that's a common thing.
And it's they still say that. Like they still say that, even if it is your husband. I mean, just think about the reaction of WAP and all the things that Cardi B says and her, being this
because
way
the woman owning her sexuality is uncomfortable to mainstream media unless they can get taxed on it.
It's uncomfortable to mainstream media because of misogyny and patriarchy, and women's bodies have always been something to own and possess. They've always been for men. Sex has usually been for men, and still is kind of looked at for men. So when you have a woman,
because there's a many of women that ain't never even had a real orgasm.
We talked about that, but what I'm saying that to say that is why Billy, a lot of why she probably didn't express that in the beginning was shame. Like, what is he gonna think if I tell him about all of these past experiences I've had? And it's a very real thing that a lot of Black women, a lot of women feel in their lives if they have a colorful sexual history, is that I'm going to be shamed. Most women will not tell you unless they have a really small number how many people they've been with. Why? Because of the shame. And so she probably was concerned about that. And with good reason, because look at how it turned out when she was open, when she did talk about these things. It's not always digestible for men to deal with, and it's a hard thing for your mate to deal with, especially if he hasn't had as colorful of a past, which it seems like he didn't.
Yeah,
so his past was beige.
It was vanilla. It was vanilla.
Can you shout out the people who commented today? They really did a great job.
Yeah, y'all was going crazy.
Everybody except my husband, because he in here.
Oh, that's haters.
So I'm finna go and have to
Robert. Oh, y'all was going in
acting a fuzzle. But yes, thank you all for participating in the conversation tonight. And we still got 5 people watching us, y'all, and it's well past the mark.
They say,
so
I'm gonna watch
y'all
the
the real
I'm for
MVP.
y'all. I am for all y'all, all
the
7 of
MVP.
y'all.
It was so much stuff I didn't get to say about this show. I think I allowed my trigger buddy over there to you know, push a couple buttons, and you know,
You better
and
mind your business over there.
yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm gonna name you this time, Mr. Russia.
Mr.
Russia, because there was a lot of other things I wanted to touch on. But if you haven't seen the series all the way through, watch it. I would say watch it with your mates, but I don't know how that's gonna turn out. So maybe not.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
If you not married yet, watch this show with your mate, and then that determine if you need to get married or not.
I don't know about that, but
it's or at least open up some conversations if you haven't had these conversations previously.
All facts. Yes, but thank y'all for staying with us tonight. Y'all stay safe. Really stay safe. It's crazy out there.
Part two.
I mean, I already got the schedule down. So we may have to see about that. I'll keep you all posted on the part 2, because there really was a lot of things that, you know, didn't get broken down.
There was so many themes in this show.
There's
like
so many
things. It could be an umpteenth part. Just focus on each theme.
I agree. So I'm gonna put
Wait,
that.
What you say, Rush?
Did you? What I said about what?
Oh, I thought you had just said something. Oh, okay.
No, I said, you know, I'm finna say goodnight because we almost 40 minutes over and we ain't really agreed on much of nothing.
We did. We agreed that communication.
We agreed that they were both wrong, but then it went haywire after that. So
they were both wrong, Russia, and she's a flat-footed wench.
Communication
okay?
is important. We agree on a lot of things. Stop focusing on the negative.
She's a flat-footed wench for running all the way to Manhattan after the play to
after
go in
school play with that bratty ass kid. I don't like.
And hold on, because he ain't said it this whole time. Russia, he was like Russia. She ran to Manhattan to get on his horse penis, because that's what he kept calling it, a horse penis.
That joint was large.
Alvina said we were hollering the whole time. No, we wasn't.
We was hollering a lot,
but not the whole time.
We was hollering a lot. This is a very triggering show.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
We definitely was. But
be 100. Speak your truth and live your freedom as you see fit, and allow other people to do the same. That's the moral of my story.
All right, guys.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Hey, I had so much